Morning, morning, morning. Morning, Annette. Good morning to His Excellency Nigel O'Connor, President of Pleasantville, and First Lady Marissa Keegan. Morning, Judy King, Raymond Penny. Good morning, Marlon Sinclair, Aries Bourne. Good morning, Deanne Charles. Morning, Deanne. Ruth Fontaine. Good morning. And, we have one YouTube, David Clark. Morning, Pauline Buckmeyer. Mistress Sydney. Morning, Lucille Ford, Angela Curti, Michelle Superwoman. Morning to all. Alberta Sampath. Good morning. What's we have here? Terrence Swan, Donna Walcott, Annette Neptune, Sedena Kwashi, JG Wall. Morning. Morning to all of you. Let's see. Gemma Alexander, Looney Rodney. Morning. Cynthia Jackson, Alison Samuel. Morning, Alison. We say good morning as well to Darrell Nanton, wishing him a belated birthday greetings. I celebrated a birthday yesterday, and Darrell is one of our loyal followers. And to all of the new persons who are joining us as well, even the supporters of the UNC. Good morning, Gaylan Jackson, Nicole Caesar. Morning, Nicole. Minad Lazare. Morning. Marjeline Reno. Good morning to all of you. Francis McMillan and Shedley Jimenez. Patricia McKenzie. Morning. See it here. Morning, Anna. How is your weather in Canada? Okay. Don't know why Facebook doing all that this morning, but all right. Good work with that. Gail Jack. Good morning. Joy George. Denise Bramble. Rainy and cool, says Anna. Similar to what we've been having here for the past couple of days, but this morning appears to be a little dry, so that is good. Annette Hunt. Good morning. Patricia Hill. Jenny Joseph. Morning, Carol. Adriana Alexis. Claudius Alexander. Good morning to Mother Tuna Puna. Annette McConney. Good morning. Morning, Alison. Alison Boyce, Joyce Lynn Smallwhite, and Franca Thilu. Good morning. So Dada says, look, you had seen that at this channel this morning. Go from here. Yes. They always it's amazing that those are the words to say about the things that I said on this platform, not just on my live, but the contributions that we make, the other admins on this page who share stuff and who post comments, and we see the attacks are being heightened by persons who support the UNC, but they accuse us of lying and we talking all kind of thing they say we talking, but they can never provide us with any solid facts, evidence to say, well, okay, this is why they're talking rubbish, this is the truth, whatnot, and so on. And hence the reason the title of today's live is Of Race and Lies. You all know I do like to talk the race thing, because, yeah, it's not me, and that is not of me. Yeah, I'm really not into that. That is the UNC way, particularly the Doglaya and Roberts. Can't do a live without bringing race into the thing, and they always like to say that the PNM votes based on race because they have nothing else because they don't want to admit the truth that the real reason why the PNM supporters, members, don't vote for the UNC or are not inclined to vote for the UNC has nothing to do with race, as was evidenced in 2010. I always make the point, the only reason why, if the PNM supporters and members who they like to call, the UNC supporters like to call latrine flies, cockroach, monkey, you're drinking Balize juice. Always have a lot of things, nasty things to say about us. But it was the same latrine flies, the same cockroaches, the same monkeys, and whoever else you all want to call PNM supporters, who gave you all the election in 2010. Had it not been for the PNM supporters, you all would not have won Arima, which is a PNM seat. You would not have won Dabadi Omera, another PNM seat. You would not have won Lopino Bonne West without the votes of the monkeys and the cockroaches and latrine flies and the Balize juice drinkers. If they were racist, they would not have given you all their vote. The People's Partnership, their vote overwhelmingly. You would not have won Tunapuna, you would not have won Sangre Grande, St. Joseph, all of these different seats that you all won. Even in the local government elections of 2010, you would not have won Diego Martin, which the UNC could never win. But in 2010, you all did. You all won that corporation with the help of the same latrine flies, monkeys, cockroaches that you all love to call us. You would not have been able to get seats in the Port of Spain Corporation. You would not have been able to take on the Arima Borough Corporation and get seats in other PNM stronghold corporations that you all were fortunate to get in 2010, if PNM supporters and members used to vote based on race. So I don't know if it is that in 2010, Mrs. Passad Bissessa was of African descent, and then between 2010 to 2015, she decided to do a race change, and she became East Indian, and then all of a sudden, the PNM membership decided that they can't vote for her anymore because she's no longer an African. Because otherwise, that's the only explanation I could come up with, other than to highlight the stupidity of the members of the illiterati. But you see, again, as I said before, it is a convenient excuse for you all to make to not have to face the truth. And the real reason that they don't support the UNC is because you're corrupt. You all refuse to accept. You have every newspaper headline that come out that is negative towards the PNM. You have plenty to say. But for the last 3 weeks, last month, the Express and TV6 have been running a series of articles and so on with respect to the Piarco Airport. But you all wouldn't speak on that matter. No comment from the members of the UNC on that matter, but you all are against corruption. And the PNM is the most corrupt party, but will not acknowledge and address the corruption that took place under the leadership of your party. Massive corruption was the headline on the Express, but you all had no comment to make on that. Bypass that street. Apparently, the Express that you all bought on that Sunday had a different headline to what the rest of the country saw. And so that's why you all are talking about it. But every week, every Sunday for the last 3 Sundays, they've also been carrying on. Well, you didn't see that neither. Apparently, the Express that you all buy don't have that page. Yeah, the Express know well. Leave out this page in the newspapers that we be selling in the UNC areas. Yeah, you all didn't see that. But all you know about PNM corruption. So I always say, when it comes to UNC, you have 2020 vision to talk about PNM corruption. But UNC corruption is cataract and glaucoma. You all remind me of the Republican Party. You know, what's happening now with Donald Trump. You could tell the Republicans who support the MAGA Republicans, Make America Great Again. You could tell them what you want about Trump. They're still voting for Trump. He indicted twice. This time, 37 counts. You know, they say, yeah, well, okay, so he had the documents, but no biggie. He didn't. It's not like he gave it to anybody or sell it to anybody. Yeah. And that's their excuse, which makes it okay. All right. No problem. We have another election coming up, and typical if it is the results don't go the way of the UNC, we expect to see a flood of comments on social media again calling PNM supporters latrine flies, monkey, anything the nastiest of names that you all could come up with to talk about we vote in race. But we'll deal with that just now. So we see the unholy alliances have started in an attempt to oust the PNM from governance in the country. So the plan is to start these alliances with the local government election, and then we will take it to the general election. Well, we'll see how long those alliances last, because they never do. Right? They come together, they form a pickup side for the election to get rid of the PNM, and then in no time at all, they fall apart. We've seen that countless times, and there's no reason to believe that there'll be anything different. So I see yesterday the PEP, the People's Empowerment Party, led by Philip Edward Alexander, they had the press conference to announce the first of the alliances, an alliance with an entity called the Reunited Farmers, something or the other. Never heard of them before. And he announced that tomorrow there will be another press conference to announce another alliance, all in an effort to get rid of the wicked and evil PNM. Not to provide better governance, not to provide better representation for the people. No, it is to get rid of the first motive, the first goal is to get rid of the wicked and evil PNM, and anything could come after that. Yeah, that is the premise. Then we have, let me pull it up here. We have the Gary Griffith, Gavin Nicholas. Yes, Guardian. Gavin and Gary are keen on forging an alliance with the UNC. There's no surprise there because these two gentlemen came out of the People's Partnership. As we know, Gavin Nicholas has his party called, I think, is the MND, and that would have been a part of the partnership, not one of the 5 parties, but he would have his first stint in the People's Partnership. They created a new position called, was it Secretary of Communication Secretary or something, so something like that. As for some reason, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa loves to pattern things from the United States. So that was Mr. Nicholas's first posting, communications secretary or something, so to the Prime Minister and all of that before he became Attorney General after Anna Ramlogan was fired. So he just going back home, and it's the same thing with Gary too. Started off as National Security Advisor and moved his way up to Minister of National Security before he too was fired alongside Mr. Ramlogan. Interestingly though, let me just read some of this first. Talks are on among the opposition UNC, Gary Griffith's National Transformation Alliance, and Gavin Nicholas's Movement for National Development for a collaborative unity arrangement to contest the local government election. Guardian Media confirmed this yesterday following UNC leader Kamala Prasad Bisesa's confirmation that UNC had been holding discussions with other groups and that at least 2 smaller parties have approached the UNC. Speaking during UNC's Monday night report, Prasad Bisesa said some of her senior members had begun discussions with other parties. And if we can come to an agreement in time for this local government election, we will fight as a united force, she said. Yesterday, NTA leader Gary Griffith was mum on talks with the UNC, but has done so much to destroy and divide this country. We have seen too much hatred, division, victimization, and intimidation in the last 8 years. Let the focus not be as simply uniting of parties. Let the common goals be that of uniting the nation, and it starts now. There's an old saying, patriotism is the last refuge of scoundrels. And all of them now talking patriotism. Let us unite for the betterment of the nation. Let us bring the nation together. Yeah, let us get rid of this wicked and evil PNM so that we could save the nation. All of a sudden they are patriots, yes? But I repeat, patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. And all of these political scoundrels are coming out of their holes for this local election. So we still have some other, we still expect to see some other alliances. Mr. Watson Duke has indicated that he is not opposed to talking with the UNC. So we will see how that progresses. Generally, I don't PDP anymore. I don't see anybody running and gravitating to the PDP. It will be very difficult for the PDP to get 141 candidates at this late stage to represent them in Trinidad. If they could get 10, I'd be very surprised. Likewise, the PEP. But the expectation is that this alliance between Gary Griffith and the UNC is to avoid the splitting of votes in the Diego Martin constituency. Let me see what it says here. Right. There was something else I wanted. Yeah. Meanwhile, MND leader Nicholas said the UNC was one of the parties that they were talking to. He had said recently that the party would contest the election in Diego Martin. He said, we had preliminary talks on collaboration. Nothing is finalized yet, but we hope to field 10 candidates in an arrangement. The reality is that no political party in TNT has been able to fully embrace and understand the diversity or govern in a way that caters to the wide range of interests of the diverse people. While I haven't agreed with everything the UNC-led element of the People's Partnership did, I am extremely grateful the leadership had the foresight to at least try to accommodate diverse interests over 2010 to 2015. As a direct result of that, Diego Martin benefited. He says, while I haven't agreed with everything the UNC-led element of the People's Partnership did. So there were 5 parties, and he's saying he didn't agree with everything that the UNC portion of the partnership did. What was it exactly you didn't agree with, Mr. Nicholas? And how is it that you're only now speaking about that? Why didn't you speak out between 2010 to 2015 when you were in the belly of the beast? We are at pains now to understand that statement. While I haven't agreed with everything in the UNC-led element, that the UNC-led element of the People's Partnership did, the corruption part, is that what you didn't agree with? But you went along with it nonetheless, right? Hey, if you're there and you're at the table and you're eating our food, whatever do. Even if it is that you know that the person who invited you to the lunch or the dinner plans to stiff the restaurant, but you're eating our food in the meantime. After the fact, now you're coming to say you didn't agree with certain things that they did. Right. Okay, the upholder is worse than the thief, Mr. Nicholas. But you are offering yourself now. Tell the people, yes, look, vote for us. We're going back. The same people we didn't agree with, we're going back into an alliance with them to give only the same thing so that they could win some seats and do things that I don't agree with, but I wouldn't say anything so long as we're in power. But when we come out of power, I will tell Ole I do agree with it. And I want you all to vote for me on that basis. No problem. He added, now that the local government elections are upon us, the UNC has once again understood that allowing parties that possess a greater understanding of the local needs of the people and who are more closely aligned and connected to these local communities to contest without interference or competition from the UNC gives the people of those areas the best chance for the most effective local representation. And to this end, I, as MND leader, acknowledge the collaborative approach and hope that we'll be able to field 10 candidates of quality who can be accepted by the people of Diego Martin. All right. Right. So, interesting. So he's hoping that the UNC will stay out of Diego Martin for the local government election. They can't win, but they can be spoilers for the NTA and the MND. So you're telling them, well, whoever votes all you have, whoever support, because, I think Don Sylvester, who is their regional campaign manager for down on that side, I think he's also on the executive of the UNC. So they have some support down on that side. So Gavin basically say, here, well, let's stay out now. We'll put up no candidates down here and leave it to me and probably Gary, and we can handle that because the folks down on that side, those who supported the PNM are more likely to give Gary a little tush or give me a little tush. But all here, forget that. This is not 2010. But these are the virtues that you are espousing, right? Because the people down on that side do tish. Yeah. So they can't understand. And as soon as anyway, let me leave that there. But just to add to the point, I'm not surprised that Mr. Griffith is willing to go back there. Never mind the fact that this is the same Gary Griffith who told us, I believe it was in 2020, he could not in good conscience vote for the UNC. Hence the reason when he went to the polls to cast his ballot, when he went into the voting booth, he said, this is what he said, I held my nose to put the X next to the PNM candidate's name. The lesser of two evils. It's about when I looked at it, PNM UNC, I couldn't in good conscience vote for the UNC, knowing what I know about them. So I voted for the PNM, but I had to hold my nose to do it. This is Gary Griffith said that on national television. He had to hold his nose, but he didn't vote for the UNC. The same UNC that didn't support him for the position of Commissioner of Police, never mind the fact that he came out of their ranks. They abstained because they wanted Dulal Chan, according to Ganga Singh. Appoint the Indian. Yeah? We want Gary. They are the strongest and biggest defenders of Gary. Right? This is the same Mr. Griffith who told Jack Warner, recorded meeting which Mr. Warner would have played in 2015. It was Mr. Griffith who told us about Mrs. Prasad Bisesa being a lazy prime minister. That in the 5 years that she was prime minister, you never saw her working on, was it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? It was the same Gary Griffith who told us that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa used to take 5-day weekends and she used to hardly come to cabinet meetings. Yes, the same Mr. Griffith who told us that members of the former People's Partnership Administration had attempted to coerce him into taking one for the team on the matter which got Anand Ramlan fired. Remember, Mr. Griffith told us Mrs. Prasad Bisesa was out of the country at one point in time, around the time that was happening, and the Errol MacLeod was acting as the prime minister. And he, Mr. Griffith, ran late one day for cabinet meeting. And when he got to the cabinet meeting, according to him, Mr. MacLeod temporarily suspended the cabinet meeting. And I think he had asked Larry Hawaii, based on my recollection. If I'm wrong on that score, I stand corrected. Mr. Hawaii to continue the meeting. And according to Mr. Griffith, Mr. MacLeod, Mr. Vasan Bharat, Rudal Munilal took him to a side room off the cabinet room and tried to convince him to read what he said, the statement he made that Anand Ramlan had asked him to call David West. In other words, take one for the team, because the consequences of you pursuing this matter could be dire for the party. And remember, it's party before country. So you need to do something, and he refused to do it. Now, here it is that you have, at that time, the Minister of National Security is telling us that 3 senior members of cabinet attempted to pervert the course of justice, or at least to get him. Well, they were attempting to pervert the course of justice by their actions and trying to get him to retract the statement that he made, right? Was there ever a police investigation into that to determine whether or not these 3 men attempted to pervert the course of justice and should today be before the courts for that matter? It was public. Mr. Griffith said it. It was reported in the newspaper. Here we are, 8 years later. Was there an investigation into that? I have no idea. All we know is that at that time it was said that there should have been an investigation into that matter, right? But did Mr. Griffith ever pursue that? When he was Commissioner of Police, you made an allegation. You, Mr. Griffith, made an allegation. So you believed that these men did something that constitutes a crime. You were in charge of the police service. Did you initiate any investigations? Because I don't think there's a statute of limitations on that matter. Given the fact that you were, and this was just 3 years later, 2018, when he became Commissioner of Police, did you, Mr. Griffith, paragon of virtue, initiate a police investigation into that matter, since you are the one who made the allegation that these 3 men committed that crime? I don't think you did. Because if you did, we'd hear about it, right? Okay. But this is the Prime Minister in waiting. We're all about good governance in this wicked and evil PNM. Not about that. Yeah? Okay. But he has a lot to say about Emailgate, and you know that Emailgate was fake. There were 23 typographical errors, and just based on that, it is fake. His name was mentioned, I believe, in the Emailgate matter, right? And so you know it's fake. But you said 3 men, 3 senior government ministers, tried to pervert the course of justice by getting you to do something that should have gotten them arrested. And while you were the head of the police, you did nothing further of that. Well, we go check with friends. We can do that. Yesterday was yesterday. Today is today. Okay. Now it doesn't escape me. Gary, based on something he said on Saturday, I don't know how many people picked it up. Those of you who listened to the interview, I still haven't listened to it in its entirety. when I believe it was John Benoit who kept saying, well, and you want to be the prime minister. So if you become the prime minister of Trinidad and Tobago, God forbid. And every time John Benoit said that, Mr. Griffith would say, yeah, in your dreams, you feel, you wish that. Yeah, but I am going to be the prime minister of Trinidad and Tobago. My party and I, we will get rid of the wicked PNM. He said, not the whole PNM, the Rowley PNM. He says, not the whole PNM bad. It's the Rowley PNM bad. Now, bearing in mind the fact that I just told you, he said he voted for the PNM in 2020, albeit he had to hold his nose. And now he's making a differentiation between the PNM and the Rowley PNM. It is clear. And his reference here in this article to the Prime Minister has missed mandate. And he blames the Prime Minister for so many things. Mr. Griffith's angst is not with the PNM, it is with Dr. Rowley. Clearly, that all of the things that since Dr. Rowley made that, well, whatever transpired between himself and Dr. Rowley when he was Commissioner of Police, right? And Dr. Rowley would have mentioned, not in great detail, but the WhatsApp exchanges between himself and Gary Griffith and the disrespect that was meted out to him, resulting in him losing confidence in Mr. Griffith. And he wrote to the Police Service Commission expressing that loss of confidence. And I think since that would have come out publicly, and whatever relationship he and Dr. Rowley had, because clearly he didn't have too many issues with Dr. Rowley when he became Commissioner of Police, because he realized he had the support of the government. But then being Gary being Gary, and that relationship would have broken down, it appears. He seems to have a vendetta against Dr. Rowley. So his angst is about getting back, sticking it to Dr. Rowley. Yeah? So it's not really about governance. Just I need to get back at Rowley somehow. Because every time the Prime Minister speaks about Dr. Rowley, about Mr. Griffith, he does so with a level of disdain, much to his chagrin. And it affects Mr. Griffith's ego. Right? So every time Dr. Rowley talks about him, he has to give a response. He has to do a live or something to respond to what Dr. Rowley said about him. So it's like Dr. Rowley gets under his crow and he just needs to deal with that. And by any means necessary, even if it means that I need to form an alliance with the UNC to achieve that, whatever it takes for me to stick it to Rowley, I will do it. So never mind the fact that there are persons who joined or who support the NTA because they don't support PNM, they don't support UNC. So they fed up with the two main parties and they feel, well, look, Gary might offer something different. Gary could attract a certain caliber of persons. Just like what happened in 2010 with the People's Partnership. They were able to sanitize because they got people like Dukaran and at that time, Anand Ramlogan and other persons, Timothy Hamel-Smith, Vernon Dilliman, all of these people who by and large were known to be decent persons. And because they came into the fold, some people who wouldn't have even given the UNC as a first thought say, well, all right, I could get them a chance. It have people of decency inside there. So they might be able to temper the corruption and the thievery and bring some level of honesty to that unholy alliance. Yeah, apparently they didn't know the strength of the UNC when it comes to corrupting. Yeah? Disappointment. Fell apart. People like David Abdullah and all of them who were inside there. So they see Gary Griffith as being somebody who could attract a certain caliber of persons into the leadership of the NTA. But he is willing to sacrifice that for the sake of sticking it to Rowley. Yeah? A betrayal of all those persons who are supporting your party because they genuinely believe that you could bring good governance and that it is really your intent so to do. But no, it seems the NTA is just a vehicle to get back at Rowley. Okay, well, to each his own. We'll see how that goes, but just remember all the things that Mr. Griffith would have told us about the UNC. He was the one who said, with respect to this matter involving the case in which he is to be a witness, the witness tampering matter involving Anand Ramlogan. Let us not forget what he said when Anand Ramlogan challenged the legality of his acting appointment. When his substantive term as commissioner came to an end and he was given an extension, it was Anand Ramlogan who went to court, and it seems like the UNC supporters forget that. It was Anand Ramlogan who went to court using his lackey, Ravi Balgobin Miraj, to challenge the legality of Gary Griffith's acting appointment on the basis on which it was made. And when the court declared that the basis on which the appointment was made was illegal, and therefore Gary Griffith's acting appointment was illegal, it was Mr. Griffith who told us that the reason why Anand Ramlogan did that is so that he could create a defense, so that when the matter, the witness tampering matter, comes to court with Gary Griffith being the main witness, well, one of the main witnesses, that Mr. Ramlogan and his defense team could pour cold water on Mr. Griffith's testimony to see the only reason why Gary Griffith is saying this and giving this testimony is because he wants to take revenge on Anand Ramlogan for challenging his acting appointment and causing him to lose his work as the commissioner of police. He said that. It makes sense. Ramlogan is a shrewd attorney, right? So he created a narrative now to paint Gary Griffith as a hostile witness. We cannot rely on this man's testimony. He have an axe to grind. It was because of me that he lost his work as commissioner. I was the one who went and challenged it in the court. Otherwise, he would have still been acting probably, or whatever as the case may be. Or he would have acted for a longer period of time. And because of that, he tried to get back at me, so he lying now. Gary says so. But I'm willing to let bygones be bygones. I'm willing to go back into that. Whatever that is. Yeah? Through all of that. This is the same Mr. Griffith who told us about Vasant Bharat inviting him and his wife to a meeting in the office of Ernie Ross. I remember Ernie Ross? The advertising company that used to be eating up your taxpayers' dollars between 2010 to 2015. The advertising company that got the $20 million for the happiness campaign to tell you, to make ads and so on, to tell you and me what it means to be happy. Remember that? That Ernie Ross? Where Mr. Griffith told us about that meeting in which Mr. Bharat allegedly, alongside Mr. Ernie Ross, when an attempt was made again to get him to take one for the team, where Mr. Ross would have designed the campaign or whatever it is, and they would have crafted whatever statement needed to go out to retract what Mr. Griffith had said. And he put down his foot and he said, no, he stands on principle. And subsequent to making that, there was supposed to have been a police investigation into that too. After, when Gary Griffith first declared and told the population about that meeting, Vasant Bharat denied it. And then later, he and Ernie Ross come on and said, well, yes, there was a meeting between ourselves and Mr. Griffith and his wife, but it wasn't to discuss what Mr. Griffith is saying. It was to discuss. Remember that? The police ever investigated? So a second time, Mr. Griffith made a claim that somebody attempted to pervert the course of justice to get him to retract his statement. Critical witness statement, which would have contributed to Mr. Ramlogan being charged for witness tampering and attempting to pervert the course of justice. Testimony from Mr. Griffith. He became police commissioner. Did he launch an investigation into that meeting with respect to Mr. Bharat after you allege that he committed a crime? No, you didn't. Okay. Have the nation. On to other things. Of race and lies. So where should we start first? Start with the lies? I think we could do that. Right. Give me 1 second. Let me pull this up here. Right. So many lies have been told in the last few days. Desperation, of course, the motive. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa on Monday night made the claim that the PNM intends to introduce an inheritance tax. What is an inheritance tax? Well, in the United States of America, they call it an estate tax. So when you're dead, if it is you didn't put proper things in place for the distribution of your estate would be liable to pay a tax of up to 40%. Yeah? So when you die, Uncle Sam, they look at whatever it is you would have left that is part of your estate. So whatever you leave in your will, or if you don't have a will, if it is that your loved ones have to do letters of administration to get your estate, whatever you owned constructively or otherwise at the point of your death that has not been transferred to anybody else prior to your death, or within or outside of 3 years after your before you died, you had to pay a money on it, right? So that's why life insurance in the US is a big thing, because you could end up paying hefty sums. But there are things that are put in place, a number of different tax allowances that the government has in place that you could utilize to protect your estate from having to give Uncle Sam a chunk. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, it seems, looks at too much MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, wherever it is, because, stand your ground. That is her catchphrase now. Everything is stand your ground, stand your ground, stand your ground. In fact, that is going to be, I think, the tagline for the election campaign. Stand your ground against this wicked and evil PNM. So she came on Monday night. She wants the Minister of Finance to tell us whether or not the PNM is introducing an inheritance tax. No, why are you asking the minister to tell us? If you come to tell us, he who alleges must prove. And if you come in on Monday night to allege that the government is bringing an inheritance tax, you need to come with your facts and tell us, where did you get this from? Because for you to come on national television, national radio, and make such a claim, one would expect that you are confident in the source that you get this information from. Otherwise, to that, you're a damn blasted liar. And I am inclined to the second one, because it's not the first time she has shown herself to be a liar, right? So you come Monday night and you make this claim. So she starts off, this government, since they came in, for the last 8 years, there's only tax. They put tax on tires. They put an online tax, a 7% online tax. What other tax did they put? What other tax? That's the only thing she could come up with. And Khadija Amin said on in front. Business levy, yeah, business levy. Khadija Amin, who holds an MBA from Anglia Ruskin University. If I was Anglia Ruskin, I take it back. I take back Madame MBA. You come with this business levy. Is either she was just being willfully malicious, or she just naturally dotish. Business levy has been around for the longest while, right? It was around when they were in office, and before that, and so on. But you come in to say, because they love to say that this government is a tax government, but ask them what taxes this government created since they came in. But they'll tell you, same thing she said, tax on tires, and they come with the 7% online tax. What was the purpose of the online tax? The purpose of the online tax was to put an ease on the country's foreign reserves. That they always complaining that when they left office it was 11 billion. And now under this government, it comes down to 7.5 billion. And this government draining the foreign reserves. Government say, well, all right. Part of the main reason why the reserves are being drawn down is because everybody and their dog want to buy things online now, because everybody have credit card. Who paying through PayPal or whatever the hell it is, right? But that is draining a lot of the country's foreign reserves. So to try and temper the demand to shop online, we put a 7% online tax. Shop less. Stop draining the foreign reserves. But it's the government and the government, right? They wouldn't talk about how the average citizen draining that every time you use your credit card. Just remember, once your credit card could make foreign purchases or US dollar purchases, the bank has to settle these reconciliations in US dollars. And therefore, the bank has to find the money. So when central bank releases monies from the country's foreign reserves into the banks, part of the reason why there's a shortage is because the banks have to keep a portion for themselves to settle reconciliations for all of these online purchases that you all are making. All of these what they call it, skyboxes or whatever it is. Everybody now want to open a skybox company. Why? Because there is demand. Because people going online, Amazon, when they do calculation, even with the 7% online tax, what they pay, even with the shipping cost, it's cheaper than if they buy it in Trinidad. Because businessmen in Trinidad feel that they must give out your and anything else that they don't, right? So people don't mind, even with the 7% online tax, it hasn't stopped the level of purchases that have been taking place online. It has continued. But she couldn't find taxes to talk about, right? You come with this lie that the government plans to implement an inheritance tax. So that if it is you don't put your house in order to transfer your property before you die, anything that is still left in your name at the point of death, the state will tax it. And it's a 25% tax. Despite the fact that the Minister of Finance has put out a statement, numerous statements denouncing that lie. You know, the members of the literati still running down that. You know, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa put it up big and bold on her Facebook page. Jayanti Lakshmi, after the Minister of Finance put out this post, asked the Minister, tell us, this was her words, I am calling on the Minister of Finance to tell us whether or not government is planning to implement an inheritance tax. The minister answered you in the most succinct way. The only thing he didn't do was to call you a damn liar. You ask a question, you get an answer. The answer is no, but you're still putting it out. Jayanti Lakshmi put it out on her Facebook page yesterday, long after the minister responded, and said no. You asked a question, the answer is no, emphatically no, it is a lie. A lie from the pit of hell, better known as the United National Congress. But you still put it up. You know why? Because you know how your supporters will operate. That you only need to put it out there. Never mind the fact that it has been debunked by the minister himself. And I hope he is speaking tonight on the platform in St. James. Never mind the fact that he has debunked it. You know, it already inside the heads of your supporters. So they may care. They run in with that. Because when you read some of the comments, just this morning I'm going through it and I'm reading the comments. So when Jayanti put it out, there was one comment on her page about 20 minutes after she put it out. So I know it fresh. With one comment, I decided to go into the comment section of her post because I know it fresh. So she must see it before the barrage of comments come up. And I asked the question, I said, can you provide us with the evidence that the government intends to implement such a tax, or is just another case of desperate fear-mongering on the part of the UNC? I'm certain she would have seen it because my comment was comment number 2, so it would have popped up in her notifications. No answer. But this is the future of the UNC. They want to preach about probity and transparency and honesty and integrity in politics. And all you're lying to the... Look, anyway, but that is what they do. That the only way they could continue to get the kind of support that they want is to lie. Lie their way to government. The same way they did in 2010. Lie. Ask the tax. Lie. $3,000 pension at old age pension at age 60. Lie. Fixed dates for elections. Lie. Term limits for prime minister. Lie. All of that. Recall legislation for errant MPs. Lie. All that in your manifesto. Nothing of the sort. Lies, lies, and more lies. But just like the Republican Party, you could say what you want. They believe in that. Up to this morning, they're still commenting on that. This nasty and wicked you want to do. After your parents work hard to build a house and to buy this and do that, you want to come and take that too? We had to get rid of the PNM. What is it? Yeah, it would say, and I'm seeing some people who appear to be persons who, what is it? Yeah, it would say, and I'm seeing some people who appear to be persons who have sense. When you look at some of their profiles, right? These are people who, on the face of it, but as I say, never judge a book by its cover. You look at their CV and so on, based on the information they have on social media, and you think these are people who have sense. And their argument is, well, we can't believe Mbut because, remember, Rowley said he wasn't closing down Petrotrin, and he closed down Petrotrin, so why we should believe Mbut? Well, then Prasad Bisesa shouldn't have asked the question. Come and say, look, the evidence here. This is what we received. Where that came from? Who said that? Probably, again, watching too much CNN or something like that, too much Fox News. And say, right, let me come and make that claim. Because she knows the mindset of the literati. You only need to plant the seed in the head. No matter what evidence comes out after that, it's too late. But the danger now is not so much the UNC supporters now, because we know they are a lost cause. Lost cause. They make no sense trying to convince them otherwise. They beyond help. Beyond help. But it's when it is that they're in certain circles and they're talking that nonsense, and you have people who don't know and will assume that was said. People who are not engaging in social media so much, so they will not see where the minister debunked it, right? So they only hear Kamala say it. They hear it, and they hear the UNC supporters repeat it. And having not had the benefit of seeing what the minister put out, them running with that. As I tell you, people sending me things in my mailbox, my WhatsApp asking me, what craziness is this? What your government doing? They was only want to tax people. How much more tax? And I just say, brother man, I tell you, don't come to me with this nonsense. Check, do your research before you send me this stupidness. I said, if you send me one more thing like this again, I'm blocking you. Stop sending me nonsense. And I have to, day after day after day, be putting out fires like this because the UNC continues to show themselves to be a pack of liars. They supporters from the captain to crook, every last one of them, liars. And when the minister should be doing his work, he has to be taking time out, the minister, the prime minister, and others, to be debunking lies that are coming out from the UNC. Because the supporters don't take the time. Even now, they're still talking about that HSF loss. I mean, come on. There's an old saying, it's better to be quiet and let people think you're a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. But apparently, supporters of that party are not familiar with that maxim. So you run up on social media and commenting and making yourself look like a fool. But there's only so many people I could respond to. There's only so many people all of us could respond to. Eventually, you just give up and tell yourself, look, this is the waterfront. It can make no sense. They can't, no matter how you try to explain it, they wouldn't understand. So just leave it alone. Leave it alone and hope that a few people who have sense would do their research. Because the UNC they have the largest membership to the Headline Readers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. They just see a headline. They wouldn't open it and read the particulars. They just see a headline, comment. PNM again. PNM, last night I saw an article came out with respect to PTSC states. They were interviewed, or they had a meeting with one of the joint select committees or something in Parliament, and they indicated that they only operate in about 71 out of the 163 routes because they don't have buses. And truth of form, the literati jump out themselves, yeah, and only want to vote race, and only want to vote for the PNM. Great is the PNM, left foot, right foot. PTSC doesn't have a board of management. Some of these managers, they're probably making more money than the line minister. It is their job to manage the corporation. It is their job to manage the buses. If it is that you have a shortage of buses, it is their job to let the minister know, because Rohan Sinanan not working in PTSC. Rohan Sinanan doesn't have an office in PTSC. Rohan Sinanan doesn't know what is going on a daily basis in PTSC. That is why you have a board of management. You have an executive, right? So you have the board, you have the executive, and others who collecting salary every month to ensure that the corporation runs efficiently. When they don't do their work and there's negative consequences, we bypass them and we go straight to the minister and the government. And the public servants, some of whom making more money than the line minister, they are allowed to go scot-free. Because in this country, we go straight to the government. And let's see here. Let me have this first thing. Hope it's still there. Right. Put this in. So we're still dealing with the liars first before we get to the other part. Right, just now. So I mentioned on Sunday they had their waste of time press conference. UNC that is. Let me get this. Good. Listen to Saddam Hussein with respect to the UNC's position on property tax. As I said, this is the future of the UNC, future leadership, right? A possible future attorney general, if, God forbid, they get back in office in 2025. Listen to this.
Property tax. We're totally against it. We never, at any point in time, ever supported local government property tax. when you look at the local government reform, there's a minority report in the local government reform GSC report where we explicitly stated that we're not supporting property tax. What we have suggested in the past was the revision to the old land and building tax model that had existed in Trinidad and Tobago ever since independence, but we have never supported property tax.
We have never supported property tax. So says Saddam Hussein. What we supported was the revision to the old land and building tax that was in place since 1962. No, Saddam, it was there before 1962. All right? It was there probably since around 1910 or before. So those are the rates that you all were claiming that you wanted to go back to. Yeah? And Mr. Dukaran in 2010 indicated very early on that, let's get this here, right? That was not possible because you had run into certain legal hurdles on account of the fact that the previous PNM Manning administration had repealed the old land and building taxes, and therefore you couldn't bring it back. And you had to try and bring in something new. As he said, we never supported property tax. No. It's only this wicked and evil PNM. Okay. Give me 1 sec here. Wrong thing. As I said, that is the future of the UNC, right? Future leadership, as Mrs. Prasad Bisasa referred to. Check out the meetings. He always up under her. She can't tell the difference between him and her half slip most of the time. I'm gonna play this one here. Tell me if you remember this one.
Bisasa reintroduces property tax for the 2017 period with the following rationale.
I propose to phase in these taxes over the period 2014 to 2017, during which time the properties will be valued and consultations will be held with all stakeholders. In phase 1, and effective immediately, we shall commence valuations of all industrial land, including plant and machinery, whether house or in-house. We will impose a tax on commercial properties, and in phase 3, we will impose a tax on agricultural lands and on residential properties.
According to the timeline given by the former Finance Minister, Larry Hawaii, we are well within the threshold of the property tax reintroduction. It's instructive that the current Finance Minister, Komimbe, allowed for the 2017 period to arrive, well within the timeline given by his predecessor. So what exactly seems to be the problem now? Well, let's take a listen.
So we intend to fight this property tax. We have the strong view it is unconstitutional, it is illegal, and on top of which is a pressure, a tremendous pressure on citizens who are already beleaguered with the state of our economy, with the crime, with the loss of jobs, and a situation in which we can only say it's a cruel, wicked, and heartless government.
So there we have it. The erstwhile Prime Minister, Mrs. Prasad Bisasa, now opposition leader, seems to have a convenient policy of hypocrisy in relation to property tax. The record indeed shows a very clear timeline enunciated by her Finance Minister, Larry Hawaii, for the reintroduction of property tax. But now, conveniently, she says that the property tax she initially did the groundwork for is illegal and unconstitutional, would you believe? It's amazing how lawyers have this country and its people utterly bamboozled. I mean, you can't make any of this up.
But Saddam says we never supported property tax. Never. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we plan to go back to the old land and building taxes from 1962. Is that what Larry Hawaii said there? Or they will commence valuations of industrial, commercial properties and so on, and then they will impose a tax. Impose a tax on residential properties. And when he said that, Mrs. Prasad Bisasa is sitting right next to him there, going through the budget document that he was reading from. She said, "On right there, stoic. You tell them, Larry. Let them know what it is." That's why I paid you $11 million to become minister. So you could do it, not me. Yeah. He talking and she sit down right next to him after. Ask the tax. Ask the tax. No tax. No property tax. Rowley's a liar. And we'll repeal the Property Tax Act. Was it repealed? No, it wasn't. Why? Because they know what it is that they were coming with. Try to find that article where Mr. Hawaii indicated that the two things to improve the government's finances would be to remove the fuel subsidies and impose a property tax. But Saddam said we never had any interest. We were never in support of property tax. Okay, Saddam. Well, I guess that was AI. Yeah, that was the PNM do that. PNM voodoo, just like the Room 201. Yeah, where Anil Roberts said it was PNM voodoo and PNM Photoshop. And Kamala said, well, yes, I got a report from Anil and I am satisfied that that was PNM Photoshop. Okay? Yeah. So that's PNM Photoshop there. We did that and that wasn't Larry Hawaii voice here. That was AI. Probably we're going to hear that later on this week, assuming that the Chief Secretary makes good on his promise to say more about the audio tape at the end of the week. But I verily believe that we will not hear anything from him because now we've heard that it is now the subject of several investigations, including a police investigation, integrity commission investigation. So he might now come and tell us, well, you know, the matter is subject to investigation. So I do not wish to speak on it. Okay. Wouldn't be surprised to hear that at all. So that's two things to talk about, right? So folks, let me tell you, there is no inheritance tax to be had. But I just wanted to make the point, since they raised it, and they like to talk about tax and how much tax in Trinidad, and tax. This government like the tax, right? Inheritance tax or estate tax is just one of the many taxes that they pay in the United States. Along with property tax, you have estate taxes, federal estate taxes. So you have the state you're living in, you have to pay their taxes, plus the federal government's taxes. You have something called the generational skipping tax, where every time you pass property from one generation to another, you have to pay tax on whatever that property is. And if you try to pull a fast one to say, well, I own property, and instead of me paying a tax to pass this to my son, and then he has to pay a tax to pass it to my grandson, I will just pass it directly to my grandson and skip the tax that my son would pay. No. Congress put something in place for that too, called a generation skipping tax, which are 40% in your waist. Yeah, so don't feel like get away. Yeah, you can pass it to your grandson, but you will still pay a tax on it anyway for your son. This is some of the taxes. One of my clients, right? I met with yesterday, so he's here briefly, just for a little short vacation to do some stuff with his mom. He's traveling today, right? And he had to give me his pay slip. He lives in New York, and I'm going through his pay slip. If you see tax, New York State tax, you have New York City tax. So you have the New York tax, New York State. You have the New York City tax he had to pay. It's a whole series. Let me just pull it up here quickly, just to give you all an idea. And when they like to tell you, oh, pressure here, boy, this government wicked and it's only tax. Let me pull this thing up here quickly. In the interest of time, right? Let me get this here. Let me pull up his payslip. Federal withholding tax, Social Security tax, Medicare tax, New York withholding tax, New York family leave tax, New York City withholding tax, all them taxes, right? Adding up, and this is his fortnightly pay, $1,408 in taxes. On his salary of $4,300, he paid $1,400 in tax. And then when he get paid at the next fortnight, he had to pay another $1,400. So over $2,800 in taxes. Yeah? But we're crying here for tax. Well, let me just mention this quickly. Since they love to say that this government is about tax. This government, I've said it before and I'll repeat it for the benefit of the UNC supporters who listen. This government has provided more tax relief, perhaps than any other government in the longest while. More so than the Kamala predecessor government. This government increased your personal allowance 3 times between 2015 and now. From $60,000 under Kamala predecessor to $90,000 under this government. Which means that there are thousands of persons who, between 2010 to 2015, were paying PAYE under Kamala predecessor. Thanks to Keith Rowley, they are no longer paying PAYE income tax. Others are saving as much as $7,500 a year in taxes. So under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, when the personal allowance was $60,000, which she didn't touch, she gave no income tax relief to anybody from 2010 to 2015. But she loves to boast, under my administration, we did not implement a single new tax. It didn't provide any tax relief for the citizens either. Right? Under her, when she came in 2010, personal allowance was $60,000. When she left in 2015, it was still $60,000. So plenty earlier, who under Kamla Prasad Bisesa would have paid that $7,500 to the Board of Inland Revenue. Thanks to Keith Rowley, you're getting to keep it. So that's $7,500 less you're paying a year in income tax. I'm gonna put it into perspective for you. You know, they like to talk about baby grant, $500 a month to make child, and Kamla do that. Well, here what? Keith Rowley give you a baby grant for the whole year and an additional 3 months. Because 500 by 12 is 6,000. Keith Rowley give you 7,500. So that worth more than the baby grant. But all you're not ready for that conversation, right? It was the Keith Rowley administration that reduced VAT from 15% when it was implemented under the NAR to 12.5%. No other government touched it. Kamla didn't touch it. She said she removed it off of 7,000 food items. What 7,000 food items, I don't know. I don't know anybody who goes to the grocery at the end of the month and buys 7,000 food items. But it wasn't removed only on, the 2.5% wasn't reduced on food alone, on everything. So when you go to TSTT to pay your bill, T&Tech, WASA, all them things, 2.5% less than you were paying under Kamla Prasad Bisesa. When it is that you go to the hardware because you're building house or you're doing house repairs, you're paying 2.5% less in VAT on the cement, on the blocks, on the nails, on the galvanized, on the Z-pulling, everything that you need for construction, you're paying 2.5% less than you were paying under Kamla Prasad Bisesa. When you go to buy a brand new car in the showroom, you're paying 2.5% less on VAT than you were paying under Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Keith Rowley did that. It was Keith Rowley who increased the minimum threshold for stamp duty for first-time homeowners from $850,000 to $2 million. So under Kamla, if it is that you were buying your first home, right, and the house cost more than $850,000, you had to pay stamp duty on every dollar over $850,000, which meant that you had significant savings to pay that stamp duty. That was an additional cost. It was Keith Rowley and Coleman Burt, who all you want to call the Dwen, when they came in, increased it from $850,000 to $1.5 million, and then increased it to $2 million. So it means that if you are a new first-time homeowner, you could go and buy a house valued up to $2 million and you pay $0 in stamp duty. Zip, do that, nothing. You know what that means? Savings are probably close to $70-something thousand. That under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, if you bought a house for $2 million, you would have to pay in stamp duty. Keith Rowley tell you, keep that. He say, keep that and use it to improve your home. Somebody saying, talk about water for citizens and 22 billion. Well, here what? You want me to talk about 22 billion for COVID? When you bring me that, because apparently you UNC supporters can't decide on how much the figure is, because it's 18 billion, 13 billion, 20 billion, 22 billion. And just like Gary Griffith, every time he talks about how much money he said the Prime Minister gave him to go after the UNC, every time one of you UNC supporters talk that stupidness, or you add interest to it. So when you could get me the exact figure and where it came from, then we will talk that. Otherwise, go from here with your propaganda. I'm not dealing with that nonsense, right? Just like with Balize House, it started off at 50 million, then it gone to 100 million, then 150 million, then 2 million, because apparently Ole can't pick a struggle. Every time one Ole talk about it, the figure goes up. Yeah? And we're supposed to pay attention to you all. Propaganda, no research. All you hear somebody say. And that is what this one see and that one see. And you run coming to talk about that nonsense. You want to talk about the water situation? How you want the government to fix it? Right? WASA. The main problem WASA has is with leaks on lines that old as the hills. Right? Some of these lines was there since Moses was in Pampas. Money is needed to fix these, to repair these lines, to replace these lines. All you don't want to pay all your WASA bill. Thousands of people in this country owing WASA, thousands of dollars, and want to pay. Some only paying as low as $108 every quarter and don't even want to pay that. You know why? Because WASA don't disconnect. Because the process for WASA to disconnect is a tedious process, because they actually have to come and physically disconnect your line. Unlike T and Tech, where they just come in, do something to take in much work. TSTT, B-Mobile, they could do it from their office. So they don't have to visit your home. But WASA different. In 2020, when WASA decided enough is enough, because we're draining the treasury, the government has to be giving us subsidies and billions of dollars every year. Monies that we should be collecting from persons for whom we are providing or to whom we're providing water, and they're not paying the bill. Thousands of dollars and they're not paying the bill. When in 2020, WASA decided to crack down and they start disconnected, up comes the UNC. This government wicked. They're wicked. It's COVID. And people lost work. And who salary cut? And people can't afford to pay the bill. They can't afford to pay the bill, but yet still they will line up outside WASA to pay though. They had the money there and they found the money to go and pay. But you enablers in the UNC always prostituting the poor. Everybody too poor for everything in this country. They're too poor to pay the bills, to pay WASA. So the government has to find the money now to give WASA to repair these lines. And that is money that could go to other things. So money that should be used to pave road had to go to WASA from the coffers, that the money that the government gets from energy revenues and the non-energy sector, from taxes, income tax, corporation tax, and all of these things. Government had to take that money to give it to WASA to repair lines, when that should be funded by persons paying the bills. But you enablers refuse to allow WASA to collect the money. And the minute WASA, anytime, even if all the government come back into office, they'll be singing a different tune though. When it is, but all you know, don't pay WASA. But PNM supporters in Port of Spain, here all here, it's $100 rent, $100 a month rent, and they can't pay that, and they ain't paying that. Right? They can't pay $100, and all they want to crucify them for that. But to pay $108 a quarter for water, no, they're too poor. They're suffering. They have money to pay that. So continue to squeeze WASA's cojones and let the government find money that should be used for other things to pump into WASA every year. When it was your government, UNC government, retrenchment under them, send home over 1,000 workers. And then what? Rehire everybody back after all they pay VSEP. Pay VSEP, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, almost $400 million in VSEP all they pay. These people get money, walk out the door, and then 2 months later they walk back in. And the staff complement remain the same, and WASA end back up in the same mess that it was in. But all you ain't gonna talk that, but you want to come here to talk nonsense about the citizens getting water. Yeah, let me talk about that. I mentioned before in Jamaica, the land of wood and water, they're facing the same issues for water. Kamala come when she was prime minister and talk a pack of nonsense about, water for, since 2000, all they promised water for all by 2000. Everybody get water? You all fail to realize, you know, many housing developments have come about since this administration came in, and even under, well, they didn't really build houses. In fact, they abandoned a number of housing developments that the PNM started under Mr. Manning. But the demand for water has grown because HDC continues to build new communities. New communities all the time means additional services are required. They have to lay more lines to service these new communities. So when it is they should be spending money to repair leaks and to repair old lines, they have to be finding money now to put down new lines. Where the money coming from? Don't take it from the HSF. Don't borrow. No new tax. Oil and gas revenues depleting, declining, because why? We're producing less oil, less gas. But only I understand that. Because in the UNC, less is more. So the less oil we find and the less gas we produce, apparently you all expect us to get more money. And that is Kamlamatics for you. But you want to talk about the citizens with water and so on and the state of the roads. Whose responsibility is it when it is the roads are paved to ensure that the paving work is done up to standard? In other jurisdictions, they're building a road to last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, but in Trinidad, road does only last for 3 years. And the same people, year after year, administration after administration, paving the roads. You have people working in the Ministry of Works who get in big money, big salary every month to ensure that when the road paved, it is paved to quality standard so that it could withstand all the same big truck, all the big heavy equipment that all of these paving companies have that contributing to destroying the road. But they wouldn't say, well, let me adopt a road now. We acknowledge that we are contributing to the destruction of the road with all the big trucks. Not one of them will say, hey, let me pave this road. Let us adopt a road or two and pave it at our expense, since we're collecting billions and billions of dollars. They wouldn't say that. But you wouldn't hold the contractors to book. You wouldn't blame them. No, it's the government fault. So when the government pay them millions of dollars to pave a road, and in 2 months' time, you're seeing potholes in the road, there's government fault. Not the contractor who doing slipshod work. No, not the person, the engineers who work in the Ministry of Works whose job it is to go and ensure that the contractor did a good job, that this road could last for at least 5 years. And you're okay with roads lasting 3 years and wouldn't hold the fire to the foot of the contractors to ask them why we in Trinidad can't get roads to last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Why every administration coming, we have to be paving the same damn roads. But you know what? Because all is so politically myopic is the government and is the PNM and is the PNM. All the roads that the UNC paved, the People's Partnership paved between 2010 and 2015. That was 8 years ago or so, 8 to 10 years or so. Since 2016, they're griping about the condition of the roads. So the UNC paved roads the last 2 years, 3 years, and you happy with that? You okay with that? Why you didn't question them on that? Why aren't you demanding that the contractors be made to account for why it is that these roads are not lasting long? No, but instead, it's Rowley and the PNM. Understand, if you pave a road to last 10 years, you have to wait 10 years to get a contract to come back and pave that road. So it's not in your financial best interest to make sure that you do the paving jobs properly. Let it last 3 years. So you could get to pave that road 3 and 4 times in any 1 2. But we're not looking at that. You know what? Because Rowley and the roads is the worst in the country. And crime. They didn't have crime under Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Right? Government gave $90 million to customs since 2021 to buy scanners. 90 million. That 90 million could afford to purchase 41 scanners. Since 2021, the ministry gave that money to customs. We are in 2023. Whose fault is that? The minister did what he was supposed to do. But Munilal want to ask the comptroller of customs, so you all couldn't come to the National Security Council and ask them to do, what do you call it, boy? Sole select tender. So just pick a contractor to get it work to. And then if the government did that, UNC, the same Munilal will be the first to come up in Parliament and say, you see what they do? They get a contractor, their 1% friend, to bring in the scanners. So that was the one good thing that the comptroller had to say and put him in his place. No, sir, we cannot do that. Because this is a public service and there are rules that we have to operate by, which says that we have to go through the Central Tenders Board. We need to get a certain number of bids, competitive bids, and then we will assess it and the job will be given to the most competent. It's not about giving the cutting corners to give the work to somebody so that all they could get political mileage to come and see, look what the PNM doing. They're giving their friends, family, and financiers contract. That why didn't they go through the Central Tenders Board? But that was, you see, that was what the UNC used to do. That's how they used to operate, sole select or bid rigging, to explain the Beetham wastewater treatment plant, which is why a company that had 0 years of experience in building wastewater treatment plants get a $1.2 billion contract. But all they wouldn't talk about that. You want to talk about that. And this next one, Tony, let me not be distracted, but I'm glad that you are here, Tony Jail. You have a good last name. You have a very good last name. But we must vote for the UNC, right? Up to now, we still can't, we still discussing the issue of the Piarco Airport. Yeah, we're still discussing EMBD, $540-something million. The highway to Point 14, where they paid every member of the same family in some cases for the same property. So if the property worth $1 million, every member of the family get $1 million for that one property that worth $1 million. And all they want to come and tell us, vote for that. Yeah, that is what we should vote for. And that you have a former Attorney General who was before the court for taking kickbacks, over $1.6 billion in legal fees. In some cases, junior attorneys the only time they ever see the inside of a courthouse was when they were called to the bar. But billing the government hundreds of thousands of dollars. Never went inside the courtroom. But we must vote for that. $425,000 for a 2-paragraph, a 2-paragraph pre-action protocol letter, $425,000. Yes, let us vote for more of that. That's what we need to vote for. $20 million for the happiness campaign. Let us vote for that. That fence up in Aruka there, Golden Grove Prison, that cost $88 million. $88 million. Imagine prison officer tell me, when I asked him, what was the purpose of that fence? He said, boy, that is a eat a food fence. They built that there. They said they was going to close down Carrera and bring prisoners up here, and that was supposed to be for wherever. But yeah, the only thing inside there now is grass. Well, they could just put Trevor Sayers inside there, you have a good time. $88 million of taxpayers' money spent on that fence of no use or utility. They buy the old Massey warehouse up in Santa Rosa when they were locking up all them black boys in 2011 with the state of emergency, right? After paying $30 million to rent, well, they went and spent $230-something million to buy it. When Jack Warner is on record as having said it was offered to him by Bernard Doolal-Whiteway for $17 million, and he tell Bernard Doolal-Whiteway that ain't making sense. $17 million, I give you 15. Bernard say no. But they bought it for $238 million and then spent another $50 million to outfit it. But that's all right. We should vote for that, right? They say all kind of thing about Forest number 1 Alexandra Street, but in 2012, when number 1 Alexandra Street, which they left empty for 5 years, when the lease came up for renewal, not only did they renew the lease, even though they didn't use it, you write to Zaman Enterprises to ask them if you could get number 3 as well. Yeah, the building right next door. So number 1 empty, you have nothing in it, but you want to lease number 3 to put the CPU office. And when somebody whispering all ears and say that ain't making sense, how that go look? After all you beat up on Paris, all you have this building empty, you want to take the one next door, you run up Barataria, say you're going to rent building in Barataria to house CPU. $53 million spent on rent, and now up to now, nobody can find the building. But we should vote for that. Yes, that is what we're supposed to vote for. And that making sense. Take taxpayers' money to buy $1.2 million worth of all-inclusive tickets for the South Cancer Fest. Yes, we should vote for that. Mohan Jaikaran, the former owner of Win TV, when he was on the board of Caribbean Airlines, yeah, 19 first-class tickets to send friends and family to New York for a Mother's Day concert he was having, a cost to Caribbean Airlines. Yeah, so he just say, right, my friends, you want to go to New York? First class, come, you. Business class, you. You want to go? Come, 19 earlier. Taxpayers' money pay for that. 19 friends and family members. Wrong trip, business class to New York. We should vote for that. Yeah, that's what we're supposed to vote for. And Mr. Jail, Tony Jail, that's what we're supposed to vote for him? Yeah, voting for that. They rent building on St. Vincent Street, Pembroke Street, $9 million in rent spent. For 3 years, they never outfitted. But rent pay, never used the building. Frederick Street, $5 million in rent. Never outfit the building. Rent paid, never used the building. Taxpayers' money gone up in smoke. $10 million US missing from the bank account of the National Energy Corporation, while Larry Hawaii was the CEO of First Citizens. And now you promote him, make him the Minister of Finance and pay him $11 million. That is what we're supposed to vote for. $400 and something million of FCB money given to 3 businessmen to build the Carlton Savannah. No collateral. Hotel gone into receivership, the 3 men walk away, and First Citizens left holding that hotel. But that is what it is that you want us to vote for. And yeah, we should vote for that. Anyway, there was something else, because in the interest of time, something else I wanted to play. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Yes. So they love to say that again, that the PNM does vote on race. Yeah, the PNM is vote on race. I'm going to play this for there. 2 things I want to play on that score. Even though I don't like to talk about it. And I was still talking about the tax relief that this government has provided to citizens, right? So many different things that this government has done. With respect to saving for your own retirement, this government increased the tax allowance amount for annuities, personal annuities, from $50,000 to $60,000. So now you could contribute up to $60,000 a year into your annuity, and you could get a tax refund for that. Up to $15,000 in tax return you could get to save for your own retirement. All of that. Did Kamala Prasad do that? What did she increase the figure to? All of these different things that this administration has done. They have provided tax relief for entities that donate money for the upkeep of heritage buildings, so that all these old buildings we see about the place, instead of the government having to dip into their pocket to pay for it, let the private sector put their money where their mouth is, let them see about it, pay for it, and then we will give them some level of tax relief. That is what this government has done. But who did Kamala give the tax relief to? The energy companies. Here, what now? Let's come and drill for oil, drill for gas, and whatever money you spend, we write it off, we give you as a tax write-off. So you spend 100 million US, write off that whole thing. Even if you find gas, the first $100 million that you earn in profits, from the sale of that gas, you keep that until you recoup the cost of what you spent to find the oil and find the gas. So up until 2024, you like all yourself. No taxes. Don't worry, we go find a way. You took the exchequer account from 10 billion, the highest it had ever been, up until 2010, to $33 billion in overdraft. Mr. Manning, I always say, who built Napa? Mr. Manning built Sapa. Mr. Manning built the waterfront. Mr. Manning built government campus. Mr. Manning built the Prime Minister's residence and diplomatic center. Mr. Manning built houses, thousands of houses. Mr. Manning built schools, big schools, 3 of which the UNC left to fall to ruin. But they like to say that this administration did that. All those things Mr. Manning did, the Chancery Lane complex in San Fernando that she turned into a hospital that was supposed to save the government rent, right? Mr. Manning built a building at the corner on St. Clair Avenue, which was previously the Prime Minister's office before they moved back to Whitehall. All of these things Mr. Manning spent money on to build all of that. Hosted CHOGM, hosted the 2009 Summit of the Americas. All these things money spent on. And he didn't cross $10 billion. Kamla Persad-Bissessar came in 2010 as Prime Minister. Between 2010 to 2015, 5 years. Ain't build no Napa, ain't build no Sapa, ain't build half the things that Mr. Manning built. I don't ever hear them talking about houses and how many houses they built. But we know Manning built thousands of houses, which they gave out 100 houses a week for 6 months. All you remember that? Manning built that. And all the housing developments that they abandoned, Napoyo Court in Malabar, Beaufort in St. James, Real Spring in Valsine, all of these that they abandoned that Mr. Manning started, and it was just to finish it off. And you could have given it out to citizens who were in need, persons who were waiting on HGC housing for donkey years and complaining 10, 15, 20 years, they're on the waiting list. All those houses were there. It was just to complete it, finish, outfit it, and give it out. You abandon it because why? In PN, all them thing is in PNM stronghold areas. So we ain't dealing with PNM areas. Abandon it. Right? When those people could have been paying mortgage and building equity in their homes, they're paying rent. For 5 years, rent money, dead money. You ain't do that. All them things Manning built. And he didn't take the exchequer account to 33 billion. Kamala built half of that. But with the highest energy revenues in the country's history, it went from 10 billion to 33 billion. The highest that put the account in permanent overdraft. Because you see, when it was at 10 billion, and when every year, when money comes into the fund, of course, the fund would come out of deficit because money coming in to cover the deficit that was there before, and you have extra. It's only when coming to the end of the financial year when you start to spend because, you need to spend all the money that was allocated. It would go back into deficit. Since 2015, when this administration has come in, that has never happened. It has never come out of deficit. Never. Because it means you have to clear, first of all, $33 billion before you could come out of deficit. When under Manning, it was 10 and under. So at certain points in time of the year, the fund, the balance in the exchequer fund was positive. Since 2015, when they left office, it has never been positive. Permanent overdraft. This government or whichever government had to make plenty money in a year, right? You have to make at least 33 to 34 billion in excess revenue to be able to clear that overdraft. Thanks to the People's Partnership, that has happened. But all ain't ready for that conversation, but you want to come and talk about water for the people and the state of the roads. But you don't want to pay property tax. Well, that's all right. All they continue to battle property tax. You know why? And when you all continue to prevent the property tax, just know Faris and his family smiling all the way to the bank. George Aboud and his family smiling all the way to the bank. John Aboud and his family smiling all the way to the bank. The Sabga clan smiling all the way to the bank. The next time you go into standards, tell yourself, Mr. Sabgan pay no property tax on this. Yeah, so all the money you're going to spend on furniture, just know he ain't pay no property tax for that. The next time you go to Grand Bazaar, the next time you go to Movie Town, the next time you go to Price Plaza, the next time you go to C3, walk around and remind yourself that the owner of this facility making millions of dollars in rental income and paying $0 in property tax. Thanks to who? Not Keith Rowley, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, and the UNC upholders. So it is you, UNC supporters, who making the rich richer, not Keith Rowley. Because Keith Rowley want to pay the property tax on his property. Or they talk about Coleman, but have a multi-story multi-apartment building on Pembroke Street, on Picton Street in Woodbrook, Newtown. Yeah? 0 property tax. Thanks to who? UNC, because they were saying, I want to bring the property tax so I could pay mine. Paris saying, bring the property tax so me and my family could pay ours. Browley saying, we want to bring it so that we could pay. Stuart Young saying, we want to bring it so we could pay. Right? And the UNC saying, no, we don't want no property tax no more. Keep all your money. Keep it in all your pocket and all your bank account and enjoy it. So that we could continue the money that we would have, that the state could get from that property tax to help the poor. We need the poor to stay poor. So that all we could give them is handouts, not handouts. Once they stay poor and suffering, we could now go and get them a little carrot, dangle a carrot in front of them so they will vote for us. That is what we need to do and continue to do. And that is what the UNC offers you as good governance. But all they want, we should have been looking like Dubai. Yeah, with what money? With what money? Even when under Ole, when things was good, Ole didn't want to pay property tax. But Ole want the best. The lights, the street lights outside your house not working, you want to call TNTech to come and fix it. The drains in front of your house clog up, rain falling, you want the corporation to come and clean it. And then talking about, but we paying tax. What tax? Half of Ole ain't paying no property, no, you pay no income tax, thanks to Keith Rowley. No longer paying income tax. Because if Ole telling you, Ole can't afford to put food on your table and you're struggling and you can't pay your bills, it means you ain't earning more than $7,500 a month, so you ain't paying no tax, no income tax, so take that off the table. You all like to use this term, taxpayers, loosely. Take that off the table. If you ain't paying taxes, taxpayers. So to be a taxpayer, you must be paying tax. So if you ain't paying no income tax, that is one off the table. So the only other tax that have for you to pay is if you're paying VAT. And the amount of VAT that's all you're paying, because when I could go to PriceMart and see a man spend $1,533 on his tax, the amount of VAT he pay on that is $64, that ain't no money. $64. So the next time you go to the grocery and buy a big grocery, make sure and look at the bill at the end and see how much money you're paying VAT. I bet you it's $100 or less. We're talking about, you want the best health care, but all you paying is health surcharge, $433 or $32 a year. Somewhere when you go by the private doctor, you're spending $1,000+ by the private doctor, but telling yourself $432 a year in health surcharge, supposed to give you the best health care. You want to lie down in the best hospital room. You want to get your medication for free. You just go to the dispensary with your prescription and get it for free, but paying $432 a year and expecting that. And government's revenues are not what it was, but you expect the government to do more with less. And you, as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, don't want to do your part to contribute. So anything the government comes, no, we ain't want that. No, we're suffering. Don't increase. Don't reduce the subsidy. Right? In fact, increase the subsidy. So if we could pay $1 for fuel, we're happy. But in other jurisdictions, where it is that they have more oil and gas than us, it ain't no subsidy. In the United States, plenty. We could never hope or dream to have the kind of oil and gas they have. Right? But the citizens of the United States, they have no subsidies there. Pay what it is. Pay at the pump. Whatever the cost is, pay that. But I guess it have no poor people in the United States. Yeah? No. In the United States, if you want good health care, you need to have health insurance. Dip in your pocket, put your money for your health insurance, your private health insurance plan. And under the Obamacare, they had something called the individual mandate, which means that you had to get it. And if you didn't buy health insurance, the government could charge you a penalty, a percentage of your household income as a penalty for not buying health insurance to pay when you go to the hospital. How many government hospitals it have in the US? Or they like to talk about US and the US and the US. How many government hospitals it have? It's either you have your health insurance, your pocket deep, you're rich. Otherwise, hard luck. You know many stories I keep reading on social media, American citizens who can't afford to buy insulin, who have diabetes. So if it is they're supposed to take the insulin twice for the day, you're taking it once. They're trying to ration it until the next payday. Or in some cases, it is supposed to take, if it's 5 centiliters or whatever it is, in the morning and 5 in the evening, they're taking 2 in the morning and 3 in the evening in an attempt to ration it. Plenty of them ending up in diabetic comas and dying because they can't afford to buy things that we take for granted here. My sister was a diabetic, the one who died last year. She used to pay what, $180 something or so for her insulin. Yeah? That's about what, 20 something, 30 something, less than 30 something US dollars. In the US, it's plenty more than that. But the healthcare that you all admire so much over there is because you need to have your health insurance. But here, no, the government's supposed to pay for that. And you want the best of, the best hospital, the best doctors, free, everything must be free. But if they come in the morning and say we increase in health surcharge, all hell break loose. Look, let me play this one other thing before I take some calls, because it's already 8 o'clock. I think that's not my question, that's why I do like to read comments. Anyway. Right, so let me just play this last thing here to address the claim that UNC supporters like to make that UNC don't vote on race. No, they vote on issues. They vote on issues. It's only the PNM supporters that vote on race, and that's why the country in the state that it in. Last night, they had screening at the headquarters for the Tunapuna Piako Corporation local government election, right? Typical UNC firm, they had big party. While the screening going on, they're throwing big corridor line at the headquarters. They were running it live on the UNC Facebook page and others, but then they cut it off because the same supporters was blazing the tail in the comments. If you hear it, let me read some of that for you before I play this thing. Eventually, they cut off the live because they was getting too much links. One person says, which is, boy, let me pull this up here. Kim, no, not that one. Where is it? Right. People were complaining about they're playing loud music and the bass, they're affecting the senior citizens, right? Somebody was telling them, you all come and put all your headquarters in the middle of a residential area and it have old people here, elderly people here, and you all have no regard for them at that hour in the night blasting music, right? Big party, throwing. Yeah, people were complaining, all this food. People lose everything in the flood. David Ali. Some don't even have food right now, and this is what all you see it fit to do instead of cooking and distributing food for these families affected. Yeah, that's one of the many comments. UNC downfall, always celebrating before the victory. Yeah, they were getting plenty licks last night. They so care about the poor and all the burgesses. Plenty of these people who, the majority of the flood affected their constituencies. Their constituencies, and they're so concerned about the poor and those who are affected by the flood. There are no councillors in place today because of the UNC. Is you all wanted to go and boast about Privy Council, and the Privy Council say, and let's clap that, yes, the Privy Council. So as I said, now, when the flood waters come with all this rain, in 24 hours we had half month's rain, and more of that is to come. When the flood waters come, all who was boasting and bragging and patting all themselves on the back by the Privy Council, as I say, go and stand up in the middle of the flood water and tell it. The Privy Council say the PNM, it was illegal for them to postpone the election. Tell the floodwaters that and it will part. Yeah, tell it. Recede is because the Privy Council say. Or hear what? Go and call the lawyers, the 3 Privy Council judges who found in all their favor, call them and tell them all they need help with the flood. Because it are no councillors to help all here. Thanks to what you all did. And all they pat on yourself on the back and all they proud of it. All they proud of that. And all these people now who catching the nenen with the floods, what are they supposed to do? No council in place to help them. No councillor in place. And Kamala makes sure and she tell her people, do not do anything after the 18th of May. Right? Do not help these people. You are not to perform any duties as a councillor after the 18th of May. Or they park up. Park up. All right, park up. Let them people fend for themselves. And are you happy with that, right? You're proud of yourself? You UNC and proud? Yeah, that's what they're proud of. Anyway, not play this here for. This is Satmaraj. Responding to Mrs. Kamla Prasad, well, not responding, but speaking to Mrs. Prasad Bisesa after they had some debacle with a Muslim teacher at Lakshmi Girls. Tell me if you remember this one.
I want to tell you that we're going to free up the Hindu vote. Another thing I want to tell you, Kamla, we sent you an invitation for our Indian Arrival Day program Wednesday at Lakshmi College. You are due to talk, but I want to tell you now, I have revoked that invitation. You are not welcome on our compound. Kamla, Parasad, Visesa, you are not welcome on our compound. You take for granted. You could behave anyhow. You do what you want, eat what you want, drink what you want. Play the ass all over the place. And the Hindu will still vote for you. Kamla, those days are over. We are asking the Hindus to free their vote. Vote for whichever party has the best program. Vote for whichever candidate is the best candidate. Not because they're Indian and Hindu or woman. The Hindu vote is going to be freedom. No more voting because you belong to the same race or the same class. Kamla, you are going to pay a hell of a price. A hell of a price. You're going to pay a hell of a price.
That was Sat Maharaj. Kamla Prasad Bisasa's guru. Talk, Sat, talk. You hear what he said? No more voting based on race, religion, and gender. Who he was talking to? Free up the Hindu vote. Who the Hindu vote was going to? Not the PNM. Sat saying not voting based on race. No more. You will free up the Hindu vote. Vote for whichever party is offering you the best policies and so on. But the PNM does vote on race. Sat say. Sat said it. When it is the same Sat, when Mr. Manning died, said that Mr. Manning was a racist. And he was wrongly condemned by several quarters. When the media went to Kamla and asked her for comment, what she said? Don't focus on the messenger. Focus on the message. Did Sat lie? Is what he's saying not true? All the things he said that Mr. Manning would have done to the Mahasabha with respect to the radio license and all of these things? Talk, Sat, talk. Citizens in St. Augustine and Central complaining about the noise coming from the venues of UNC screening for local government election. Only cooking and drinking at the venues with loud music. And they did that again last night. They did it again last night in Chabonas. Because that is what they know. No decency and decorum like in the PNM. Nah. See this thing here? All right. Yeah. But as I said, that was... Anybody in the UNC deny that? What Sat said there? That they vote based on race, religion, and gender in the UNC. No, but the PNM does vote on race. It's because we voted for race is why we are where we are. Not because of the corruption. Not because of that. Not because of stories like people like a certain former minister who made a woman allegedly perform oral sex on him for an HGC house and she still didn't get the HGC house. Not because of things like that. No. Not because of things like Mary King, who was fired because she put her personal assistant to sit on a tenders committee where her son was one of the bidders. Not because of things like that. Not because of things like people like Rashmi Ramnarayan, who was appointed to head the SSA or the SIA. Never mind the fact that she didn't have the qualifications. All of the false papers crew. Mr. Omar Khan from Tiantec. The gentleman that they put as a judge on the board in the industrial court. All of these different things. Not because of the $20-something thousand that Wade Mark's wife, when she was the chairman of Tiantec, paid for a chair, a vibrating chair. No, it wasn't because of those things that we decided. Well, not we, because I never voted for them. Right? I knew what they were about. Corruption galore, so you can't fool me. No, these aren't the things that we voted. We only voted on race. Only race. And, yeah, I'll play this part two, this second thing here. Listen to this. Listen. Right, I'm going to put this volume back up here. Give me 1 sec. 1 second. Just bear with me. But I had to play this one. Okay, turn this off. Right. Put on this one. Nice. I'm going to play this one for you.
For a very long time.
East Indian is 35.4%. If every single Indian voted for the UNC or for the partnership, they could never get the 51% required. And in fact, the black man on the other side talked about they have their Oreo now. Who's their guy? At least I have a name for my ancestors. Where you got yours from? Your name is that of a slave master.
If every single Indian vote for the partnership or the UNC, the PNM could never get the 51%. Who said that? Kid Rowley said that? If every single Indian vote for the partnership or the UNC, the PNM could never get the 51%. Yeah, that's not voting on race. No, that wasn't race baiting. Every Indian, she said it, vote for the UNC. Which Indian she talking about? The Indians in the PNM too, right? And they should vote for the UNC. Why? Why? Because the UNC is the paragon of virtue. Yes. Why did she feel it necessary to make a statement like that? If every Indian were to vote for the UNC, for the partnership, PNM could never get the 51% that they need to form government. So you know what? All East Indians, let us coalesce. All East Indians come and vote for the UNC. Why? Because the PNM is an African party and the UNC is an East Indian party. So on that basis alone, come and vote for the UNC. So to all the UNC supporters who listen, I didn't say that. That wasn't Keith Rowley's voice. That wasn't Paris Al-Rawi's voice. That wasn't Marvin Gonzalez's voice. That was Kamla's voice. But then all they might tell us that is AI too, right? Yeah, we use artificial intelligence, so that's PNM Photoshop to play that. She didn't say that. No. But it's the PNM does vote on race. And yeah, PNM does vote on race. All they don't do that. All they're voting on common sense and issues. Voting because of water and the state of the roads and the state of crime in the country and poverty. Had no poverty under Kamla Prasad Bisesa. No. So I don't know who, if it is that is the Sabga family was supposed to apply for the baby grant. And the Hadid and the Aboud family were supposed to apply for the food cards. And apparently is the other 1%ers who was working for CPEP. Expanded CPEP from 5,000 to 15,000. The intergenerational transfer of poverty, Kamla Prasad Bisesa's words. Right? You tell Manning, CPEP is the intergenerational transfer of poverty. And you can't understand how any single political leader could be so wicked and careless and uncaring towards their supporters. That was Manning's legacy. That is what he gave his supporters. And then you came in and increased it from 5,000 to 15. So you add 10,000 more people to the intergenerational transfer of poverty and wonder why people poor today? And wonder why we have poverty? Because you ingrained in their minds that is what they deserve. You give them color me orange, $69 a day for 3 months to paint building. Call them to Hilton, hands up, out, down. Right? What did you do to uplift them? How many entrepreneurs did you create? Under this PNM administration, right? You have the Homestead program. Every year, 200 young people between the ages of 18 and 35 get into study in UE for 1 year in agriculture. And when they complete the course and they come out, they get a 2-acre plot of land, a starter home, $20,000 to start their business. Where is the UNC equivalent of that? No, or they come with Caroni Green. Yeah? And you had UE students with the degrees sitting down in a packing house, a Namdevco packing house up in St. Helena, peeling sweet potato whole day and stacking it up in a corner to throw away. Not me say so, it's Nirvan Maharaj, the now head of the All Trinidad General Workers Union, the union that kicked the backside out of RNC complexes. He says so. And perhaps next week or something, I'll touch on that. I'll play the clip for you where he said it when he was addressing the Caroni workers who they betrayed, who they say, yes, vote for us and you will get your money. And when they come into office, not a penny. When it is the EU money came under the Manning administration and Mr. Manning told the Caroni workers, we cannot give you all the money to just write you a check. The EU's conditions on how this money is to be spent is specific. We can use the money to invest in things to help you to get back on your feet, to invest in programs to be able to create employment for you. That we can do, but we cannot give you the money in hand. Vasan Bharat and them say they lie. All they could get the money in hand, and as soon as they win and they come into office, here Vasan, well, you know, we can't give all of the money because the conditions of the EU is that we could only use the same thing Manning was telling them, that they say Manning lie and use that to come into office and then telling the people, well, no, we can't do that. But Caroni Green I'll come and spend a whole set of money. Millions invested, nothing to show. Devat Maharaj, a then Minister of Agriculture, launched big audit. And the findings of that audit by Ernst & Young, the findings, all kind of bubble and corruption take place in that. Everything they put their hand into. They come with the children's life fund, bubble, millions stolen from that too. Everything they touch. But Mr. Tony Jail want to tell us we should vote for the UNC for that. And Mr. Jail, well, you have the right last name. According to Makandal Daga, I have never seen so much thieving in all my 40, 50, 60 years. People are stealing money like they invented it, like they have a right to thief. This is Makandal Daga, who was part of the People's Partnership, was saying that. Not me. Makandal Daga said that. Of the People's Partnership, in their first year in office, people are stealing money like they invented it. But Tony Jail wants to tell us, vote for the UNC. Vote for more of that. And when they lose office in 2015, they find three fellas in a room in the education facilities office in Long Circular there, backdating contracts so that they could give it to the contractor friends and family to now come to the PNM government to say, look, we have a contract here and only have to honor it and pay it because this contract is 6 months old and a year old. Backdating contracts, to rip off taxpayers, to rip off the citizens, to raid and rape the treasury. We saw when I read for you all, Padarat and the family, he and Imami, the company that they opened in 2011, was getting contracts from the same EFCL, millions of dollars to fix school and so on. No experience in fixing school, but all you're winning bids in which you all bid twice as much as the lowest bidder. And the lowest bidder has years of experience. You all have no experience, but he and Imami get over $15 million in contract. But Tony Jail wants to tell you we should vote for the UNC for more of that. And how many of them, Jack Warner said when they came into office in 2015, in 2010, couldn't buy 2 doubles and a red soft drink. But after 5 years, have house, land, car, you name it, like in this app. I want to tell you, right. Anyway, it is now 8:17. Let me open the lines. Well, the line. Let me get the
Master.
Line. Let me get the line. Working on getting line number 2. Soon enough. 770-1763. Let me drink water and mind my business. Don't forget the PNM meeting tonight in St. James. Those of you who could attend in person, please do. Otherwise, tune into, I think, TTT, 7 o'clock, and the PNM's Facebook page, PN, the People's National Movement Facebook page. It should be carried live from there on YouTube as well. Yeah. Got plenty more I could say, but in the interest of time. Because, yeah. So we take a few calls. Good morning to Mr. Chance. Good morning to Mr. Yates. Morning, Angie. I didn't see if Angie is on here. Let's see who we have. So, let me get this here. Morning, Jen. Jenny.
Hi, morning, Dominic.
Morning. Yes.
Morning to all who are tuning in on YouTube and Facebook. Continue to share the life, continue to spread the word.
Yes.
We are about giving information, disbunking all the disinformation and misinformation of the UNC and all that are opposed to the PNM. Because as Rodney Charles said, Duppy, the only party to take this country to the moral citizen is the People's National Movement.
Yes.
And what's his name, Munilal, watching a crowd of people in yellow, say, look at us here, red.
Yeah.
So, a Freudian slip, and I guess is what in the subconscious is coming to the surface.
Yes.
Dominic, we realize, and we get to realize that there are some in the UNC and those who are opposed will not open their mind to listen to new information. It's not a strange thing, it's just something that we have to be very conscious of. However, that does not mean to say we will not keep going and saying and spreading the word and the gospel. We know that in this upcoming local government election, it is about going out and voting. We have to treat this as a general election. And as Mr. Chance would have explained to me and would have explained on radio, that the ornament will be decided based on the amount of councillors that the PNM has within the corporation. So we have to make sure that we take back all this corporation, because Sandy Grande, Separia, Princess Town, Shoguanas, Miaro, Rio Claro, all those corporations that have an influx of people of UNC, unfortunately, is riddled with corruption. So we have to make sure that the government, local government reform that the PNM is speaking about, that the PNM is in this corporation to make sure that the corporations are run the way that they should, that councillors have a full-time job, they have a little staff to work with, and that the taxes collected within the corporation will be used by the councillors in that corporation for the businesses. And the only way to do that and make that happen, and make it happen without this sort of thieving, that Makanda Daga said when in the UNC, he never see so much thieving money from the treasury, the thieving money has to be printed like if they have a right. If we want that to stop, because even Abdullah said Kamla Prasad-Bissessar is corrupt, Roger says she doesn't lie. So if you have people telling you these things about the leader of a party, are you going to sit back, stay home and say, me ain't going and vote now, and I'm done when I'm ready, and allow the UNC to control the corporation for more thieving, to go on, for more corruption to go on, and for Kamla Prasad-Bissessar to be all up in my face every day, telling me a pack of foolishness? So I am saying, go out in your numbers, just as they tell us that when them don't have to tell the children what to do, we too, we will tell the children what to do, and we tell them to go out and vote in their numbers. We bring out Tanti, Bouchi, Nene, and everybody, wheelchair, walking stick, whatever it is. We pulling them out, we bringing them out and encouraging them, vote for the People's National Movement and this upcoming local government election. It is very important for the survivability of Trinidad and Tobago and the citizens of this country. Dominic, always a pleasure. Thank you so much and have a blessed day, and blessed day to everybody tuning.
You too, Jen. Thanks so much. Hello, good morning.
Hi, morning, Dominic, Carol.
Hi, Carol, morning.
Hi, morning. I was visiting a friend in Arima last week, and the UNC people have started coming around. There were three or four of them, and I asked one of them, I said, why should I vote for UNC? They stood up, and the three of them just looking at me blank. I said, well, give me a reason why. Me see the crime? I said, what is the crime? Why don't you ask Jayanti, who went and asked for bail for two murderers? I said, and Pamela said, oh, yeah, not supporting nothing concerning crime. The roads, the potholes, it's happening, it's happening to pave. And when I started, I said, look, I'm writing Larrygon Stadium, those houses remain there for 5 years under the UNC. And look at them, they steal out everything inside of their pay. They want to come build back, people now occupying. Right? Yes. I'm showing them also their remote hospital. Oh, they do. I said, no, go and check. And how much they started it for. And I'm like, why I'm telling all these people this, and I'm telling people who are listening to you, you have given us a wealth of information. People will admire to write them, but don't write your notes. Write your notes. When these people come around and telling them, you have your facts there to tell them and to show them. Thanks to you, Dominic. And that is what we have to do, our little portion of helping. We might be able to go on the radio and things like you, but take the notes, folks. Dominic is giving us the folks, the notes, the information, take your notes, put it in, so when they come around, you can enlighten them with the facts. Thanks to you, Dominic.
Correct.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Carol. And let me make the point as well. In 2019, local government election, PNM got 161,000 votes. The UNC got 202. They won the popular vote. And their supporters are far more energized now to vote than before. Right? Let me see who I have here. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dominic.
Morning.
Morning, Dominic.
Morning.
Morning. Hey, morning. Dominic, is there plagiarizing in lies?
Plagiarizing in lies? Well, I wouldn't doubt that's any part of the UNC. 25% of inheritance tax Yes.
It's taken from England.
Right.
England is backing that now because they have 35% inheritance tax. And the people are complaining that the monarchy doesn't have to pay inheritance tax.
Right.
And the poor people have to pay 25%. So I suppose that's where they got the 25% lies from.
Right. Right.
Right? Okay then.
Well, we know Kamala had stolen a whole greeting from a UK MP when Joe Biden became president. So it's not far fetched. Let me see this one. All right. Hello. Good morning.
Hi, morning.
Morning.
Hey, how are you doing, Dominic?
Hi, good man.
Yeah, man, enjoying your program.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it going, keep it coming, keep the information coming. We are being informed and are seeing it shows on your life, which means that you're doing something very good.
Mm-hmm.
For the university to pay close attention to you. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Keep on going, you're doing good because they think I thought they would have go after Rhoda Barrett one time.
Yeah.
But they're coming after you, which means that you're doing a very good job in terms of social and media content.
Right.
But Dominic, yeah, I don't know what's your opinion on the so-called unholy alliance between the so-called smaller parties and Kamala predecessor. It seems like we, or people involved with small party, we like they really love domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Because people seem to think they were acquired in 2010 with the other party who link up with the UNC.
Indeed.
Right?
Yes.
I see Super Governor decided to link up himself with the UNC, but that was nothing new because there was speculation going on for the longest while, particularly when you saw a photo of him and a so-called person who was a social media officer of questionable character. So it's not surprising, but people seem to forget that that same gentleman who was appointed commissioner of police, the same university objected to him. Also, one I remember 2 years ago, there was a recorded audio recording of him saying that the so-called leader was on a 5-day weekend. Remember that comment?
Correct, yes.
So all they had to do, let me tell you something, they cannot shoot themselves any footage. All they had to do is get that audio and remind the people what Super Grover said some years ago concerning the leader saying the 5-day weekend. But apparently he went to go back to the leader again with the 5-day weekend. He really taking a chance with that.
Correct.
That is madness, Dominic. If you know that this person is working on a 5-day weekend, I cannot work with that person.
Yes.
That is a suicide. I know you want to comment that, but you have a good day because, like I said again, like the reading from Cambridge Analytica all over again. And thank you for the information concerning the inheritance tax because I checked it out myself too, and that is something from the Republic. That is from the United States. She take that out from VAX.
Yes.
And from the UK as well. That is a blatant lie.
Ah, these people.
You have a good day.
You too.
Yeah, get ready, yeah.
Ah, boy. What else would they do? Lies, and more lies. See what we have here. Yes. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Yes, sir. Morning, sir. All is well.
Wonderful.
Yes, sir. Leave it there, sounding more. I could barely hear what you say. You had to call me back. I barely understand what you say. You're sounding too, you're breaking up. You're sounding muffled. Call me back. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Carol.
Hello, Dominic.
Hi,
My
hi.
dear beloved Dominic. Oh gosh, boy, I'm listening to you, and I want to thank you for all the information that you brought to the fore.
Mm-hmm.
You're working so hard to educate the people about what is happening and all the lies. It is part of their propaganda machinery.
Correct.
You see, what happened is that propaganda machinery worked in the theater election with Tracy Davidson and the zip line. And they got through with it, so they figured that they could continue to implement it. But when you have people of your standing and others to bring the truth, because anything that is based on lies is to the detriment of Trinidad and Tobago. It is nothing good for Trinidad and Tobago. And Dominic, you know, there are people who will join with that party. I call them gluttons for punishment.
Yes.
You have to be a glutton for punishment. You know these people stole from the treasury and to stop buying or to stop having the kind of goods and services that the people need. When you starve the people of funds, you are depriving the people, the normal citizenry, of goods and services. Now, let's look at the UNC-run corporation. You know what they do? And I wanted to do some work for me too. Pull the Auditor General's report.
Yes.
Where they would have submitted the all the unspent balances that went back to the ministry. You all didn't spend the money on the purchases. No, you starved them for funds so that they could come and blame central government that they didn't do this and they didn't do that, and so on. Pull that report. All the UNC-controlled corporations. Then you have a lot of them before the courts for thievery, corruption. How you can want to come and support people like that who don't have the best interest of the businesses at heart?
Correct.
You wouldn't get the goods and services that is needed to run the corporation efficiently. Dominic, I mean, oh my God, people, love your country, love yourself. Too much pain was inflicted upon us. You hear Makanda's dagger crying out. You even hear David Abdullah, even the former commissioner of police, talk about a 5-day weekend. All these things. A lot of them before the court for corruption. How you could watch these people and put them in office. You want people of good standing. And you know, then I remember Mr. Robertson too, who spoke about the professional class failing the people of Trinidad and Tobago, failing the people, have us in a particular way, right? All who's supposed to know better. How can you, like corruption is part of some people's DNA, Dominic?
Yes.
We love our country too much. And my family, my little ones, must be able to live in Trinidad and Tobago and have a good standard of living.
Yes.
But when you put thieves, according to Mr. Manning said, can't put cat to watch butter.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
How can you? These people are corrupt to the core. You understand? It was people of good standing. I could say, okay, let's give them a hearing. But no, too many of them before the court for corruption. Oh my goodness me. And I hope to God, the former THA secretary is not involved in that, because you hear all kind of thing in Tobago. I hope it's not so.
Yes.
You know, and they also said, all who want to join up, they said, show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are. You know of all these corrupt deeds, and you want to align yourself with that? What does it tell me about you? Once they've not chance, you might do this. You may do the same thing.
Correct.
Dominic, I tell you, boy, but blessings, you're fighting the good fight. May God continue to bless you and guide you.
Thank you.
And I hope the people listen for the betterment of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
And then to another thing too, Dominic, for stability, for good governance. One thing a party Dr. Rowley hates is corruption.
Yes.
Like he hates it with a passion. He would not stand for it. He already told his ministers, you're on your own. If you find yourself in any kind of corrupt allegation or so, he hates it with a passion. Do you get a kind of passion against corruption from the leader of the opposition? No. You're coming with all kind of lies. Dominic boy, but God is good. He's in charge of this country.
Yes.
And blessings to you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good fight. We're there with you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Carol. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dominic.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, how are you doing?
I am
Thank
good.
you for allowing us to, thank you for educating us. You're really educating us. And I just use most of your thing to deal with some of these cults on the UNC, like these cults. Tell me about it, because they see wrongdoing and they do care about it. You understand? They're still telling you they're supporting it. I want to see something, Dominic. You see where you're saying it? About the amount of corruption and all these things, and you had to add something to it too. You know, you had to add to it. You see, first time you ever see a government do all around, and yet still people supporting them. And you know which one you had to? They're going for higher. Remember they built school in space,
Yep.
because that school we I don't know, we can't watch your microscope to see that school. Where they build them schools. But tell them just take it, you go to school and every day they come in. I hear this one, they call Tabaki, they're talking about this whole Governmental services that was so great with education. That a woman will have a school upstairs a rum shop. There's something very wrong with them. Tabaki tell them, I don't know, I hear so bright, but I mean, I know she will all have school, I see, and then plus on top of rum shop. Nah, man. Now, if Trinidad is export stability, we will make real money in the money. You know, we have some people in this country could talk nonsense. And this one you talk about is some jail, what is his name? Something jail.
Yeah.
No, these people right in the head, Dominic, them the kings, they are the, they may care about Trinidad and Tobago. Any of the leader in care, she take country and party before country, and we still considering, and Mr. Griffith, I want to see something before. Two things I watch about Mr. Griffith. You see Marley McDonald case? If you watch one, he play was now wrong and play God. Right? I hear that from inside source. He played God. But he although he was their commissioner, I watched him. He was trying to work against the PNM government, technically, because if you watch cases that's supposed to be things, he ain't running them down. But you see, when you remember the thing with Dr. Rowley, as you said, he went to send officers Christ up anyway. In London?
Yes.
With the bank account thing, when they have to run them back and laugh, right? He investigated all that. Such cases come from the UNTM and the PK man who talk. He ain't want to investigate. He ain't send nobody, but he could have sent for Dr. Rowley. You see all them fellas? What? Dr. Rowley should study that man, from day one, early o'clock, that man was a deceitful guy. You understand? I watching that as always said. I realize that. So thank you, Dominic, for allowing me this contribution.
Thank you, sir. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Dominic, and all the viewers and the listeners and the Bunkin UNC Live Facebook and YouTube channels. Well, there's nothing much to add to what you would have said, right? Because it is clear, right, with the UNC party that they are using the people's illiteracy and ignorance to their advantage
and utilizing propaganda and misinformation, right, on a day-to-day basis to infiltrate the minds of the electorate, to give them a perception that the PNM administration, headed by Dr. Rowley, is wicked, they're callous, they're bad, and the tax. But I could distinctively recall under Sushila and the PP that you all said no, or they did not tax nobody in your time. That is why the country now in this mess. Because if you all would have do the honorable thing and just continue what the late Prime Minister Manning would have done with property tax and just continue with that, the country would have been in a far better position than how it is today. But no. As you said earlier on in the program, they don't really care about that. The allowance was $60,000. You spend 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. You never even attempt to increase the allowance to people. It just remained one level, right? And then you're coming now in 2023 and telling the electorate that the PNM administration is a wicked government with tax and property tax and tax inheritance and this that one set of misinformation. And then nobody get to understand. Right? It has some people in the country, they don't read and understand. So this is where they are using that now to their advantage, because people will say, hey, this government coming and maybe property tax and everything, but it's not for the small man, They're using the small man on the ground because their friends, financiers and business people, right, breaks in from the tax. Because back in them 10 years, all of them who would have grab land and property from people without proper documentation, all of them breaks it because you have to answer where and how you acquired these property and land. So that is why they're trying to break some property tax. Most of them from down central and south. They're trying to break some property because they know all the land grabbing and property grabbing on that land. That is why they're trying to break that. But I personally, I want to pay my property tax because I want better roads in my country. I want better drainage. I want better everything in this country. You understand? And until if we don't pay property tax, we will be spending up in mud. And all of them don't get the money who crying and complaining. Oh, property tax this and property tax that. But mind you, they live in Trinidad and Tobago shores and going outside in the States and pay their property tax, because if they don't pay that across there, they're going to lose their property.
Yes.
A former minister in this country who have a big spread in Miami, he just go across it, everybody paid, they ain't paid that. You understand? But they want to come and tell me and you that the government is wicked and they want to tax. But how do you expect to generate revenue if you don't pay tax? And it's that what people have to understand. You have to pay tax in order to generate revenue. But then again, UNC style politics. Guys, the writing is on the wall. You all stay focused, writing the citizens, or they know what we want right in this country. Our election is in the air. As of today, we have 59 days till local government election. People, be focused. All the misinformation and disinformation and propaganda, debunk it. Tell them bring facts. You give them the facts because you get the facts from Dominic, and on this page, all you do what all you have to do. Do not give these people an ultimatum to come and brag on August 15, which is 2 months from now, and say, oh, and this and that, and talk from now till. Go out and treat this local election like the 2025 general election. People, Kamla, them got to go. And you see how she turned up with Super Grover from NTA? She turned up with Super Grover, and all of them now want to join up all of a sudden because, we want a coalition. You understand? Gary is the first one that signed with the UNC now. So he fighting Diego Martin. And then just so you hear, but you go fight Sawa Labantil and Sagi Gandhi, and just a PP go fight down in Port of Spain. It coming people, but just stay focused and go out and do your civic duty. Period. Your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your auntie, your bougie, aunt, uncle, everybody go out and show the UNC we don't want order in none of the corporations in this country. Dominic and Lockton, good program as always. Be safe, brother.
Thank you. Hello, good morning.
Hey, Dominic, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Dominic, on the topic of this morning conversation that you have with us, about Kamala Prasad, no taxes and no new taxes and whatever. With the increasing budget that she had by increasing social welfare and give away that, and then she had to deal with the theft inside her party herself. How she's going to woo investors? If because investors would obviously look at that how our government raises its funds to do all these things that she set out to do. Is to raise it through taxes.
Right.
So what's the reason if you do implement certain taxes that balance your budget? I am not going to put my money into your economy to invest because I wouldn't know how I would be able to get my money back out when I need it.
Right.
So she doesn't understand. Somebody needs to put smell it so that she knows and wake up this woman because she has been speaking that certain nonsense since 2015 coming up there saying and now if I can see started that in 2010 with active tax and now let's set a nonsense. You stop this smelter plant, you stop this, you stop all of that. You're only property tax and here what is how stupid. You stop this smelter plant, you stop this, you stop all of that. You're only property tax and here what is how stupid and people them the song. We're not implementing property taxes. We're going back to the land and building tax system. Well, the land and building taxes is really property tax. There's no difference between the two. It's just the name, it sounds different with the name, but it's still taxes on your property.
Yes.
Property taxes on your property. Land and building taxes is the taxes on your property. And then when I listened to this Price Waterhouse, one of the partners said at the time, announced the implementation of the same taxes. She said basically it's the same thing, it is nothing different that he was going to implement than what Manning had proposed. So they keep lying to us. And you know they get through with the people who not school and people who don't like to think. Yes. The people who would listen to commentators and go run with that without questioning. You know, sometimes you hear something, yeah boy, that's well, but how the government could do that? Then you start to think. And if you want to and it's so easy to get research, you know, just go and press the little button on the side of your thing on Google on your phone. And you don't have to spell it out, you just talk what you want to get. You see after certain information come on and you read and educate yourself. Because for crying out loud, Ms. Kamala Prasad Bissessa, in order to keep BP in Trinidad and Tobago, she decided that day no taxes for about 15 years, 10, 15 years, because it's coming 2028, 27, somewhere around it. She gave them up that. Thank God that Dr. Rowley came in 2015 and had to go and talk to them first and lay the facts and things and give them confidence that they will get their returns. So they decided, look, listen here, we're going to give all the money and give it retroactive. In other words, you know when you retroactive meaning, they see all them years they didn't pay Kamala taxes. Hey, look, the money for them, look the taxes for that. And here what? Hey, all that extra bonus that we come in and we're going to do real work with you and work with you because we could work with you as government. While Kamala's way of governance is no new taxes, and she boasting on that.
Yes.
No new taxes. Have we implemented any new taxes? None. We have nothing. And I keep asking myself, let lady please shut up? Because I can see even local investors will want to invest money into things because you want to use my money. So if I put money into the economy and the treasury sit down there to do this and to do that, you want to spend all that money and when I want my money, because I decide, look, listen, Trinidad making no sense now, I go in elsewhere. I don't have no money to collect because you use up all my money as she did with NGC. 16 billion of the finest in NGT she gone with. And then again on top of it, they use the little young boy, the one who got caught on the bus route driving without driver's permit, no insurance, and said that he was a media personnel. He is telling us what the Rowley government did with the HSS money that the thing, and 16 billion, all kind of figures that the thing it is. I had to ask this fella for real. I mean, who party does he represent? I asked that question, nobody never replied to that. Because to access the HSF, it has to go to Parliament with good reason. In order for you to take out what you say when you take out, and then you need to come back to Parliament to show with receipts on how we are spending money. And if there's any extra remain, it goes back into the HSF. That guy do not know that. He doesn't know that. So in other words, it goes to Parliament where the opposition will drill down on you know why you're going to spend, how you're going to spend it, and all kind of stuff. Obviously, they will come and tell you, I want to take the money and keep the money and keep the money. But it's to keep that money hard. Hence the reason why Kamala Prasad never really HSN. She couldn't. Especially with somebody like Dr. Rowley. She couldn't fool him, so she could no way she could get her money to do other things that I expect, or if she have to use it, is to do what she said she's going to do for good reason. You must, that your first thing, before you could table that, taking out money from the HSF, you must come with good reason first. And if you don't have good reason, there's no way you can get money out of the HSF. But yet, this fella talking about Rowley and then take the money to build Bali house, to build all kind of thing. Well, boy, I'm very sorry for all of that. And if you see how much of them chopping followers and them, and when you're watching it, you could see it's just race and politics. It's a sort of a clannish, no, I wouldn't say clan, a caste system. Like they don't care, they don't read, they don't think. I think most of them understand what it is about and how the HSF works, but you know they still have to push in a little kushu because they think they make no sense, that they sound dumb, they look dumb, and when you say something, they don't like that attack you. But fortunately, nobody attacked me. Nobody attacked me. Because it makes no sense. Because one of the questions I asked is which party you represent. So nobody wants to say which party you represent. Because you know when I was ready for them to give them the facts on how you access that. And if for some reason Dr. Rowley was able to take that money and spend that money on Bali's here, as she is saying, Bali's house, then give Dr. Rowley a round of applause. Why? Because I just outlined it, how hard it is to get through that. And if you have an opposition called UNC, led by Kamala Prasad, that couldn't find that and he find it, then she has no right being opposition leader and sitting in our parliament. Because her job is to scrutinize the government on things like that and come with facts. But she has none, so she couldn't take it up. But you're sending some idiot paying him money to talk rubbish on the thing there. You understand what I'm saying? And people running with that nonsense. And because they want to stay far away from him, because when I start to hit them with the fact that they know they can't change the fact. They know they will look like fools because they know exactly what they was doing and all about. Let him talk that notishness, and just all we just doing is coming up and choking a little fire and anything there, but to support him and to say, okay, but he's so beating and they're backing him and he would, none of them. Not one person replied to that on thing. You know, and I was going to ignore it, and that's the debate and pass and go away. So I said, nah, I had to provoke a response from the UNC fans and them. And none of them decided to think it. You talk that nonsense, I'm like the worst thing I tell in all here. I just outlined how you access the HSF fund, and if Dr. Rowley used that and Bill Bali did all that real good, because you take 16 billion out of NGT plus EMBD, the highway, the thing, all these things that you outlined there, that money, that all these people then take, the crap interchange, $250 million to build ours down in the go market. And what did they build for UNC? Where's UNC house? They're being tossed out of place for non-payment of rent and all kind of nonsense. I mean, they don't make sense, Dominic. They just don't make sense.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's see here. Right, who is this Sean Field person? Rowley never wanted property tax. Mr. Chance, you can call me back. In government, he changed his mind. Right. Kamla never wanted property tax, Sean. You recall that? Ask the tax, Sean. And then in 2014, as I played earlier, Sean, where a minister of finance who she paid $11 million to leave First Citizen and become a minister, Sean, announced property tax, Sean. You didn't realize that, Sean? You want to talk about that, Sean? Ask the tax. That is how they came into office in 2010, Sean. And then in 2014, they announced property tax coming back between 2014 to 2017, Sean. Field, you want to comment on that, Sean? What is that? Yes, but you in government. Let me see, they lose government just now. They lose government and you in charge. Okay. And you want to bring them back into office, Sean? Mr. Manning was bringing property tax, Sean. So I do understand. Yes, the PNM is in charge. And if circumstances change, Sean, because of the country's revenue situation, Sean, what do you expect? You all want so much from local government to provide everything. Clean the drain, pave the road, cut the grass. I would love for you to tell us, Sean, where should the money come from? Please tell us that. I'm asking you to tell us where the money should come from for all of that. Oil prices fall, oil production, or gas production fall, right? Please share with us where the money should come from. That's what I'm asking. Tell us. Mr. Chance, good morning.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good morning, Dominic.
Morning to you.
Yes, to let you know that I continue to enjoy your programming and the callers on target. But I just want to echo what Eric said, because I want the conversations, the healthy, instructive, worthy conversations we have had must be converted into votes. Election is about voting. It is not general knowledge. So whatever the good contributions you are making, and all the callers, they have to share it with their friends and family. And their friends and family will share it with other people to go to the polls and vote. It's not only about knowledge, it's about voting. At the end of the day, they count the ballots and they determine who wins by the number of votes cast. And in this particular local government election, there's something called proportional voting. Meaning, I've said it, I'm going to say it again all the time before the election, meaning that the number of votes cast for the PNM in your borough, in your city, in your corporation will have something to do with how many aldermen you get. There's a whole formula. And as we go on closer to the election, we'll give the whole formula. But the idea now is to get out in your numbers and vote. That is the thing. Yes, we do all the different things. Carol is right. With the amount of theft and corruption and so on going on, we must use those things to get the people to go out and vote. And I want to say to the people of Sandy Grande in particular, where there is a touch and go situation, you have to remember what has happened with the PNM. The PNM right now is constructing a hospital. And with local government reform, you are going to get better services. One of the things I want to remind you about in Sandy Grande is the question of social services. I have been around that social service board for a long time, and I can tell you there are tremendous benefits that senior citizens, public assistance, people applying, disability grants, all of that, they can benefit a lot because the social services program will fall under the corporation, and in Sandy Grande, it will fall under your corporation. So that is one of the important reasons why you're voting. Why this election is important to you, because there's something called local government reform. That's what you're voting for. Because when you vote, you see what you're voting for. You know what you're voting for is the same old. You're going to come back the same old way. Part-time counselors, that's going to come back. But you do not want that. You want full-time counselors who will be there for you all the time. You want greater employment opportunities in your community, for the young people in particular. You want a better service when it comes to sanitation and garbage collection. And let me end by giving you this one point with the property tax. The Minister of Finance made the point that at the lowest end, you're paying $456 a year.
which to me works out to just over $1 a day. And for 60% of the persons in the population, they're paying close to $1,080 a year, which works out to $3 a day. And I understand a bottle of water is $5. How could you get somebody to come to pick up your garbage on a regular basis and you're only paying $3 a day? Is that mass thing? And that is what the PNM is offering you. More money into your corporation. Like in Sandy Dandy, the estimate is that you'll get over $40 million extra into the Punapiaku, over $72 million. And that can go a long way to provide more employment and more opportunities for young people and better services for you. So that is what you're voting for. And I want to encourage you, like Eric said, go out and vote from now. Talk to your people around you. So the numbers in the voting will go up and we'll get more ornament. Thank you very much, Governor, for your time.
Thank you, sir. So before I close, let me just make this quick point, right? Because it's already 9 o'clock. I think this is the latest up on, right? With respect to the issue of the property tax and so on. So I see people say, let me just touch quickly on two things. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? So we want the same services and we expect the government to pay for it, and everybody talking about treasury and the treasury. Where does the money come from to go in the treasury? Oil and gas, and then we have the non-energy sector, where the government collects corporate taxes from the companies, all the businesses that making money and so on, income taxes for those of us who earn over 7,500 now, before it was 5,000. So we collect taxes from there. They collect royalties and so on from different entities, customs duties and so on. When you all bring stuff into the country, you pay. And so these are the main areas in which the government generates revenues. All right? Every community, every constituency in Trinidad and Tobago has grown over the last 20, 30 years. So the amount of the demand that is placed on every corporation has gone up. As more houses are built, families grow, the need for the services of the corporation has grown. The corporation now has to hire more people to do all of these things. They need to contract more garbage truck services to come and pick up your garbage because there's more people putting out garbage. As these communities continue to grow, the need grows as well. So therefore, the amount of money that the corporation needs to operate in an efficient manner also has to grow. When it is that these communities grow, you have more roads that the corporation needs to fix when it have potholes, more drains for them to clean, more grass to cut, because it's new. 20, 30 years ago, some of these communities was just bush. So the corporation had no work to do there. But now that more and more communities grow, as HDC continues to build more houses and people continue to develop land and put up houses, the demand on the corporations continue to grow, and therefore money has to be found to satisfy this increased growth. Where is the money supposed to come from? Government? You want to build more hospital. If you build more hospital, you have to hire more staff. More staff means more salaries. So the government had to find more money to pay that. We want more police stations. You have to find money for that. Hire more police because of the crime. More police means more salaries. Government had to find money. For every single person they hire is more salary. But is the government's coffers growing? The average budget of this government has been between 50 to 53 billion for the last 8 years. So if we're spending 50 to 53 billion for the last 8 years, but the amount of demands on the government's budget is increasing, what do you expect to happen? So you're working for $10,000 a month. You're married and you have one child. You come and you make 2 more, so you now have 3 children. But your salary is still $10,000 a month. So, but you have the amount of people, the demands being placed on this $10,000 a month has now gone up because you have 2 additional mouths to feed, 2 additional children to send to school, 2 additional children to provide for, all of these different things. So before you might have had, you was living good, you and your wife in a little 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. Now you have more children, you need to get a bigger house, bigger apartment. Your rent gone up, but your salary remained the same, right? You have to spend more money on one passage because it's 3 children going to school instead of 1. So the needs, your salary is the same thing. Government, 53 billion. But the amount of people demanding more and more from this 53 billion has gone up. What is the government supposed to do? Is either they find a way to make more money, they borrow, they tax, or they cut back on expenditure. All right? You all don't want the government to increase taxes. Well, okay, throw that out the window. You don't want the government to borrow because you say every time they borrow, they increase the debt to GDP ratio, and that is debt for your children and your grandchildren. Don't borrow, don't tax. Don't take any money from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. So the alternative is find ways to make more money or cut back on expenditure. So you look and see, well, all right, it have these amount of roads to pave. Do we pave the roads or do we send home people? Do we retrench some people from the public service? So we could use that money to pave the roads. Do we cut back on the amount of services we provide in the hospital? Do we cut back on the money that we're spending on education? Because we need to find money. The roads in the country getting worse. They need to pay. We need to find the money. This is the money we have now. We can't borrow. They want we borrow. Don't tax. So we need to find it. So we had to cut back because it's not easy for the government to just make money just like that, right? For years, we're talking about diversification. But every time the diversification conversation comes back up, is the government and the government and the government. The government recognizes we have businesses in this country making tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in profit. Every year, Republic Bank boasting increase in profit, $1.5, $2 billion. Okay, right? Kamala say, put me in office, Rowley taxing Republic Bank 35%, I will cut that to 17 or 18%. So Republic Bank will pay half the amount of tax that they pay under Rowley. But all you expect to get more, and the roads will be paved, less revenue. So for the past few years, it is the non-oil sector, the non-energy sector that has been carrying the budget of this country. And Kamala telling you, put me in office and I will cut that. I will reduce the amount of revenue that the government gets in, but I will give you more with less. Right? No property tax. So when the government could be collecting billions of dollars in property tax of all of these businesses, plant and machinery making millions and hundreds of millions, love to boast how much hundreds of millions they're making. The government not collecting because you know what? The UNC has trained you all to focus on property tax only residential, not commercial, not industrial. So all the energy companies that making ton of money, exploiting our natural resources, liking themselves, and not paying one dime in plant and machinery, property tax. They're going to keep all of that money. That is why Prestige Holdings every Monday morning could open a new branch of Starbucks. And you go to any branch of Starbucks at any point in time during the day, long lines in the drive-thru, and inside full. But we can't put food on the table. We're suffering. We can't make ends meet. We can't pay bills. We can't buy the basic food items. But Prestige Holdings could declare $1.1 billion in revenue last year. Last fiscal, 1.1 billion increase, record. But we can't afford, you see, and that is the problem. You go to any McDonald's drive-thru, long line, Rituals Coffee, 45 outlets. Yeah? Why you feel Mr. Abood opened that brand new mall in Trinity Eastgate? Because you know there's money to be made. He took a gamble on that, but it wasn't a gamble because, now that mall is almost fully tenanted. Yeah? Build it and the people will come. That's what Mr. Manning had said. Build and they will come. And so true, they have come. Mr. Abood not paying a cent in property tax for that mall. I could just imagine what he charging people in rent for those spaces. Yeah? West Mall, Mr. Azar. Yeah? All them, West Mall expensive rent. People always complaining how high the rent is and it's always going up. All that rent he collecting, not one penny in property tax. He getting to keep that. You own Ellerslie Plaza, fully tenanted. You have two banks in Ellerslie Plaza, Scotiabank and Republic. You could imagine the rent they're paying. All that money they collecting, not 1 cent in property tax. Pay income tax, and Kamala say, put me in office and I will cut it in half. So all the income tax that Mr. Azar paying now, 30 and 35% under Keith Rowley, Kamala said, put me in office and I will ensure Mr. Azar paying half that. I will ensure Mr. Abood only paying half of the income tax that he paying now. so they could both be richer and open more business. And when they open more businesses, what happened? They create opportunity for the poor. The same thing Keith Rowley was saying, But Keith Rowley isn't advocating for them to pay less tax so they could do the same thing. He's saying the more your bill is the more tax you pay to the treasury. Kamala said, no, the more your bill is the less tax all you going to pay. I cut it in half, but I will give more to the citizens of this country. But she can't tell you how, because the government's main source of revenue is tax. Whether it's the energy sector or the non-energy sector, it's tax. Cut out. They want to talk about diversification. Who is supposed to lead the diversification? The manufacturing sector in the country complaining they can't get workers because trainees don't want to work no 8-hour shift, right? 6 to 2, 2 to 10, 10 to 6. So they're struggling. A lot of companies, factories that could carry 3 shifts a day, only operating on 2. When they hire the Venice, all your vex. Or they bring all the Venice and them come in here, they working. But you know what, the Venice and them working, and they earning the money and they pulling the resources and them opening business. Yes, they opening food establishment and little grocery on the side. And you same trainees who complaining about all this suffering and can't buy food and can't do this, going in the same Venezuelan grocery and the Venezuelan food business and patronizing them, and they getting rich. And you studying to sit down home and cry about your suffering and this growly government wicked and evil and we eating grass. But other nationalities come in here from their economically challenged countries and making it here. There's a car wash by Piaco Plaza. There's another one by Chuck E. Cheese in Brentwood. Yeah? By the gas station, by Uniped gas station there. There's another one by Arangwes there just before you take the lights to go up, I think El Socorro Road or something. Every one of the persons washing the cars is Venezuelans. The only trainees you have is the people collecting the money. So you have about 2 trainees and 20 Venezuelans in every one of those car washes. Check it out and see. Right? But we suffering. And people can't make no money here. And this country is this and this country is that. But the foreigners come in here and making the money. They know how to do it. Right? But we only talking about bring back Kamala so we could get baby Grant to continue the dependency syndrome. Let me give only one last example before I go to show you all what I'm talking about. I have a friend working CPAP about 5 years now, right? Salary is about $1,800 a month. And she has a food card. So her household income, well, her income for the month, so between CPAP and food card, about $2,300 for the month. That is an example of what I call embracing poverty, normalizing poverty, because what she has done is to arrange her life around that amount of money. She has an 18-year-old son. He dropped out of school because of the situation with the COVID and the online. She couldn't afford to buy a device for him and he fell behind. And by the time she finally did get a device for him, he was so far behind, he just couldn't catch up and he ended up dropping out of school. But you know what? He got a job in a factory and he making more than twice what she is earning. So I said to her, well, since the factory hiring, why you don't leave CPAP and go and work in the factory so you could make more money because your son making more money. Just the other day, he was able to pay cash to buy a brand new washing machine, right? Or let's talk, or let's say, well, we're going to split it half-half, 50-50. But 3 months now, you only have $600. He was able to make enough money to buy it cash. And your money ain't grow. You're still on $600. Every little thing that you all decide you're going to do together, he ended up paying for it fully, 18 years old. He come to me to get my advice now, what he could do, because he want to do this, he wanna build up a little something for himself, and this is the money he making, and if he could get a loan. So I explained to him, well, now start to work here on contract, you ain't gonna get a loan yet because you ain't have enough tenure and all of these things, but put aside this money, let them see you saving your money and everything and whatnot. He wants to know what he could do to better himself. But you know what she told me when I say, so why you don't want, I don't want to eat the food thing, and I'm gonna have past 10-11 when I come back home and I could just lie down and relax myself. But you want me to find out about every grant the government have, the house grant, the house repair grant, this grant, that grant, right? So 1,800 CPAP, 500 food card, and any grant that you could get from the government. But your son, who is 18 years old, have more money sense than you, right? More money sense than you. So he is going to succeed because he's looking for ways. I mean, he just get licensed, he want to buy a new car, well, not a new car, let's second-hand something, but as a coach him a little bit, because, youthful exuberance now, but he taking the coaching, and he want to know, well, where else he could invest his money beside the bank to make it grow. I could understand that. Two different mindsets, 41-year-old and an 18-year-old. He don't have the amount of life experience that she has. But he's not about this embracing poverty as she has. To say, well, this is what it is, and that is as much as I'm prepared to do. No. And that is the point that I'm making. All of you all who have embraced poverty, that this is what it is, this is how much I'm making, and let me see if I can arrange my life around that. No ambition to improve, nothing, and it affects your children and their opportunities. Because he dropped out of school because she chose to normalize poverty. She chose to embrace poverty and created a situation where she couldn't get him a device to continue his schooling. And he was doing very well up to that point. As a result of her decision to normalize poverty, he now has to struggle because he don't have passes. But he will look to go back at some point in time. Yeah? And that's what I'm talking about. But the enablers, who only talking about who poor, and this one poor, and that one poor. But the same people they're talking about who poor, some of them have 2 cell phones. How they buy that? You know what? When they want thing, they go and throw their susu. They're sacrificing every week to make sure they put aside that money, 2 hand, 3 hand in the susu, so that they could buy their phone or they could do whatever it is they want. They know how to save for that. But you wouldn't tell them, take out a susu to go and improve your skills. Do a short course, right? Go and do a short course in cooking, in taxation, something to improve yourself so that you could get a better job and move up. And each time you move up, do something else to improve your lot so that you could be more employable. We ain't telling them not to know. Just the PNM don't care about the poor. And the PNM only care about the rich. That's all we telling them. PNM only care about the rich. Hate the PNM. Put back Kamla so you could get back baby grant, food card, Alami Orange, and more government handouts so you could remain in poverty. CPEP, you remain there. URP, stay there. Because so long as they have a pool of people that they could run to every 5 years and dangle handouts in front of them, they know they could get votes. But the minute you empower these people is a different thing because all of us, they're no longer thinking about that. Now they start to think issues and how the country could get better. Well, they want us to look like Dubai, but I make the point. Dubai looks the way Dubai looks because of the private sector, not the government. All those tall buildings is not government built. It's the private sector. And if it is that the diversification conversation has to be had in this country, it has to start at the level of the private sector. Over $8 billion in idle capital sitting down in the bank that could be used to develop the country. If the government decides to borrow that, well, you're vexed. Don't borrow. No. So I go back to the example that I gave. You earn $10,000 a month. Your family has grown, but you expect to do more with less. So you now have to provide for 4 instead of 2, or provide for 5 instead of 3, and you expect to work miracles. And that's what I'm not telling you here. Put me in office, and I will give you more with less, and only buying that. And then when you put her back in office now, and she can't deliver, now let's start to complain. But just remember, as I always say, your vote is non-refundable. You can't go back to EBC and say, I make a mistake and want back my vote. You will sit down there for the 5 years and wait and take exactly what it is you get between 2010 and 2015. But understand, 5 years from now, you're 5 years older. Eh? And all the things that you could have done in that 5 years, gone. But take chain up. Take chain up. Right now, they done start to divvy up who going and be ambassador for where, and who going and sit on which board, and who want which board. That's what it's about. The almighty dollar. They didn't care about you. Because if they cared about you, all the complaints we have now, they would have fixed all the old lines, WASA old lines between 2010 to 2015 when they had the highest energy revenues in this country history. They would have fixed it. We wouldn't have that problem, that water problem today. Where it is we are being told that the main reason why we're having problems with water is because of leakages. Hundreds of millions of gallons of water leaking out every day because of aged infrastructure that WASA don't have money to pay for because all they don't want to pay WASA. The one utility, the main utility in this country that having problems with collecting money from customers. Because we take advantage of the fact that WASA can't just, it's difficult for them to come and disconnect. So you take in 2 and 3 years, and only when it is you get disconnection notice, you run to pay the money. And the enablers in the UNC, when the government, when WASA decide, let me go on a disconnection drive to start to collect money, the government wicked. And the government take that chain up and tell WASA, hold all your hand. We will continue to take from the limited budget we have and continue to give all your money that should be coming to you all from the citizens and the consumers who collect it. Some of the small money that you all pay in, WASA, on a quarterly basis, all you're spending more than that in Blue Waters. Yeah, when all they go to the grocery, these big 5-gallon bottles, some all with 2 in hand for $40, a bottle $80, and that water going through in a week or less. How many are that all they buying for the week? Paying Blue Waters, Dominic Hadid, thousands, millions of dollars. But who really making the rich richer? Instead, all they give that to WASA. No, let me give it to Dominic Hadid and Blue Waters. Let me give it to Coca-Cola and Dasani and Oasis when all they buying 3 and 4 and 5 cases of water and have it packed up in a corner in your kitchen. Yeah, you have no problem spending that kind of money to give these people, but the government now must find the money when all they want to pay WASA, but running to pay give these people hefty monies in their pocket. Don't pay WASA. And the government has to pick up that bill. And you'll expect miracles, government to work miracles, but it's your country. Well, you want to pay more tax for the development of your country. Well, no problem, let it continue. So don't hold the contractors responsible when it is that they're giving you halfway work in paving the road. No, blame the government for that. Because Keith Rowley had, every time a road pave is Keith Rowley and Rohanson, and I'm supposed to go and check to make sure the work was done well. Not the people who work in Ministry of Books, whose job it is to do that, and some of them who collecting more money than Rohanson and every month. It's not their fault. Now, bypass them and go to Rowley and the minister. Look, I talk enough for this morning. It's 9:30, and I have work to do. All right? The bills got to pay somehow, and this ain't paying it. So it was a pleasure. Thank you all so much. Well, today is Thursday, so Sunday morning, God's willing, we'll be back again with another conversation. We're talking Fali and those folks. Hopefully by then he would have made a statement. If not, come what may, we still discussing Fali and those folks. All right? So thank you so much, folks. And yeah, we'll chat on Sunday. I'm out.